Immortal Cultivation family, starting with extreme effort to gain experience. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301, Wangcheng. After all, before this, the Lu family had come all the way with such difficulty. No one has ever doubted the will and determination of the Lu family. In such a chaotic environment as Yankee domain, the fact that the Lu family can still survive with difficulty is proof of this. However, as time goes by, a stable life makes people intoxicated. The cultivation resources enjoyed by the Lu family are becoming more and more abundant, but the number of people who practice diligently is decreasing. In the days when resources were scarce, the Lu family had to do a lot of work besides practicing, such as taking care of spirit beasts and taking care of spirit fields. Perhaps no one thinks there is anything wrong, but Lu Yan knows the truth of being prepared for danger in times of peace. The Lu family is currently too comfortable, and this comfort will put the entire Lu family in greater trouble in the future. Back then, our Lu family didn't even have a foundation building cultivator, but we survived in Yankee domain. Now our Lu family has produced several foundation building cultivators. Is it not as good as before? Lu Dingbo looked at the Lu family members who were a little uncomfortable in front of him, and immediately shouted. Everyone looked up, looked at Lu Dingbo, and then slowly shook their heads. Seeing that everyone just shook their heads slowly, Lu Dingbo's eyes widened, and his whole body burst out with energy. It's just crossing a region. Back then, our Lu family ancestor was able to come to Yankee region from Dongshan region alone. Now there are so many Lu family members. Don't you even have this little confidence? The voice was like thunder, shaking all directions. Yes, the uniform shots resounded in the flying boat, and the Lu family looked at Lu Dingbo solemnly. Seeing this, Lu Dingbo nodded slightly to Lu Yao. Lu Yao smiled slightly and didn't emphasize anything. I believe that the clan members should have understood that the road ahead may not be so easy. This matter was settled. After staying in Kaiyanigan City for another day and replenishing supplies, the Lu family did not contact the main branch of the Lu family again. The three flying boats slowly took off and flew towards the outside of Kaiyanigan City. However, compared with a previous time, the people in the flying boat this time were not as relaxed and casual as before. Each of them had a solemn expression, firmly guarding their own posts, and at the same time monitoring all information from the outside world. Not far behind the flying boat, looking at the flying boat going away, Lu Yan inevitably felt a little worried. But soon, this worry was wiped out by him. With the current strength of the Lu family, the help of Modu, and the defensive escapability of the flying boat, as long as the principle of caution is followed, it is not too difficult to cross region. Thinking of this, Lu Yan felt much more relaxed. Without hesitation, Lu Yan identified the direction a little, then turned into a rainbow light, and flew in a direction slightly deviated from the direction of the flying boat. The rainbow transformation technique that has reached the peak limit and the mana possessed by the Jinden realm provide a speed far exceeding that of ordinary Jinden cultivators. However, in just a cup of tea, Lu Yan had already flown away from Kaiyanigan City, and even the Lu family flying boat that was originally flying in the same direction had only 3 ant-sized black dots left, and was still blurring and disappearing rapidly. The earth flew backwards rapidly below, and Lu Yan turned his head to look at the flying boat that had almost disappeared from his sight, then retracted his gaze and concentrated on flying. Time passed in a flash, and it was 7 days. With the speed provided by the rainbow, Lu Yan has passed through the Dongshan domain and arrived at the border of the Dongshan domain. At the junction of the 3 domains of Chenhu domain, Dongshan domain and Yanling domain, there is a huge cultivation city called Wangcheng. On this day, at the gate facing the Dongshan domain, the rainbow light of Lu Yan's body fell from the sky and landed several miles away from the gate, following the monks coming and going towards Wangcheng. As for why he came to this city, it was mainly because during the previous journey, Lu Yan heard that this city was located at the junction of the 3 domains, so there were many monks coming and going, and it seemed to have formed an important node for the distribution of information between the 3 domains. In Wangcheng, information about the 3 domains can basically be obtained, the difference is only a matter of time. What's interesting is that a long time ago, before Wangcheng was the information distribution center of the 3 domains today, it was a notorious no man's land. It was a place similar to a village town and a market spontaneously formed by many mortals and monks. With the development, the villages and towns are getting bigger and bigger. As it expanded, it also attracted the attention of many forces in the three domains. The original no man's land unexpectedly became a hot spot. Various forces intervened and fought openly and secretly with each other, but in the end they were all suppressed by a mysterious monk who suddenly appeared. So a city independent of the three domains was born from then on. Who exactly is the monk who suppressed the forces of the three domains? No one knows it to this day. Even whether this mysterious monk is a man or a woman, and how his cultivation is, it seems like a fog, making it unpredictable. The only thing that is known to everyone is that the name of this city is determined by the mysterious person himself. Luya is a young man with a kind look at this time, but even so, the golden elixir fluctuations emanating from his body still make the monks around him respectful. Even the guards at the gate of Wangcheng saw him and hurried to greet him with a smile from the heart. "Senior, please come this way." An elderly guard smiled flatteringly and led Luya to the small city gate on the side. Compared to the long queue at the main gate, the small city gate was empty. Luya did not insist on queuing up to go through the main gate. Why not make himself more comfortable when it is convenient? Soon, Luya entered the city from the small city gate with a respectful escort of the elderly guard, and the guards who bent down to see him off were behind him. It was not until Luya completely walked out of the other end of the city gate that the guard stood up straight and breathed a sigh of relief. "Captain Shi, isn't your doing this damaging to the reputation of my Wangcheng?" When the elderly guard walked back to the city gate, a young monk next to him spoke with some indignation. "It damages the reputation of Wangcheng," the older guard sneered. "Does it damage the reputation of Wangcheng? If the reputation of Wangcheng is so easily damaged, do you think this city can exist for such a long time?" The young guard was obviously not convinced by the older guard's light words. He stiffened his neck and said, "Even if it doesn't damage the reputation of Wangcheng, but you are so flattering to that giant and senior, doesn't it damage the reputation of our city guards? Come on, Xiaoguo, you are a newcomer. You have just joined the city guards for less than half a year. You are still young, but there is one thing I have to explain to you. Sometimes, in the face of life, face is not worth even a low-grade spirit stone." The older guard called the stone team said indifferently, "The task of our city guards is to guard the city gates and maintain order, but in the meantime, you have to protect your own life. Do you understand?" Chapter 302, New Strange Things. But, the young guard called Xiaoguo blushed and wanted to argue. Another guard at the side could not stand it anymore and said, "Xiaoguo, listen to Captain Shi. You are still young and have not experienced many things. When you have experienced them, you will understand." Captain Shi glanced at Xiaoguo, smiled disdainfully, and said, "I know what you think in your heart is nothing more than dignity and honor, but if you see an angry giant and monk showing his anger up close, believe me, the dignity, honor and everything you uphold are so fragile." At the beginning, at our Dongshan gate, a giant and monk was tired of the noise made by the long queue of monks entering the city, so he started a killing spree. In just a few breaths, most of the monks queuing outside the Dongshan gate were killed or injured. At that time, many guards who stepped forward to try to stop the other party were killed. In a few breaths, broken limbs and arms were scattered all over the ground, and many people disappeared out of thin air. After the giant and monk started killing people, he quickly fled the scene. Although it was only half a day after the incident, he was caught by the big shots in the city and executed in public. It stands to reason that the matter has ended perfectly, right? Facing the question of Captain Shi, Xiaoguo nodded subconsciously. Unexpectedly, his action made the guards around him burst into laughter. Xiaoguo looked at them at a loss, not understanding what they were laughing at. Captain Shi stopped laughing and said earnestly, "So I said, Xiaoguo, you are still young, always thinking that the future is bright and you will become a big shot, so you automatically ignore some bloody facts. I ask you, did you notice what I said? No guard who stopped the other side survived?" Captain Shi finished speaking word by word, and Xiaoguo woke up from his dream and turned pale. "Reacted? Those guards are like you and me." Captain Shi smiled helplessly. "Ha ha ha, so, you only make a few hundred low-grade spirit stones a month, why are you risking your life for nothing?" The guard on the side laughed. "In short, do our job well, serve those big shots well, and ensure your own safety in everything. After all, if you die, even if someone avenges you afterwards, what can you do?" Team Shi has left, but his voice still echoes in Xiaoguo's ears. But all this has nothing to do with Lu Yan. Lu Yan entered the city all the way, and after walking all the way, Lu Yan, who has seen many different scenes in the city, will no longer be as surprised as before. He walked slowly on the street, as if he was really a tourist who came here to travel, strolling around casually. The first priority here is to find out the information of the Zhang family, to which the 9-forging Taoist of Chenhuaiyu belongs, and the second is to visit and experience the local customs and customs of this place. The two are not contradictory. If you want to find a place where you can both get information and experience the local customs, then tea houses and restaurants are quite suitable. However, there are more suitable places. After wandering around for a long time, Lu Yan finally chose a place that looked quite fairy-like and elegant, and walked slowly into it surrounded by fairies. He sat down in the private room, and the sound of light music floated in the room. A beautiful female practitioner of the 9th level of Qi, wearing a red gauze palace dress, was kneeling beside him and leaning over to pour wine for Lu Yan. After the other party finished pouring the wine and stood up, Lu Yan's eyes suddenly lit up and asked casually, "Do you know the name of the fairy, my lord?" "My name is Bu." The girl in a red gauze palace dress opened her red lips slightly, and her voice was as pleasant as an aureole. "Good name," Lu Yan praised softly. Just as he was about to say something else, he suddenly turned his head and looked at the main entrance of the first floor below. Although the room was called a private room, it had no door or wall. It was just a screen as a wall and a gauze curtain as a door. Therefore, he could see the two people struggling at the main door downstairs at a glance. Just by looking at it, Lu Yan's eyes suddenly flashed with surprise. The reason was that the two people struggling were both handsome young men with jade-like appearances, and the aura they exuded was actually at the Jinden level, which meant that they were two Jinden real people struggling at the door. One of them was casual and familiar, just like the other pretentious people here. At this time, he was pulling the other young man who was like rooted at the door, refusing to step in and looking embarrassed. "Brother Zhang, since you finally got out of the house, you should listen to me and relax a little. It won't be too late to complete the things that the elders at home have told you." Lu Yan could vaguely hear that the young man with a casual attitude was constantly persuading the other person. But no matter what he said or how hard he tried, the other person just refused to come in. His handsome face flushed red, and he didn't even dare to look at the fairies coming and going. "Did you see anything interesting?" Bu leaned forward again, almost sticking to Lu Yan's broad chest, and asked in a faint tone. "It's not interesting, but it's a bit novel." Lu Yan turned around and saw Bu's resentful eyes, and immediately smiled and said. Bu followed Lu Yan's gaze to the door, and then said, "So the young master was looking at those two?" "Those two? From what fairy?" Bu said. "You are quite familiar with them." Lu Yan drank the spirit wine in the cup and asked. "Not familiar, but these two have been performing this scene at the door of our Zuhu Tower for several consecutive days. It has almost become a daily program," Bu said softly in Lu Yan's ear, and a faint fragrance quietly penetrated into Lu Yan's nose. "Haha, it's really novel." Lu Yan leaned half on Bu's broad chest. Bu was not surprised, and stretched out two slender jade fingers to massage Lu Yan, and said again, "Who said it wasn't? If it weren't for the fact that those two were seniors in the Jinden realm, they couldn't be driven away. If it were someone else, Mom would have driven them away long ago." "Sir, are you comfortable? Do you need me to ask the sisters to dance for you to relieve your fatigue?" Facing Bu's inquiry, he originally planned to refuse, but then he remembered that he had passed by the box when he came here just now, and the dance there suddenly became interesting. The two people at the door were still pulling, and Lu Yan was no longer interested in watching. Wouldn't it be nice to see the fairies in gauze skirts twisting their soft and boneless waists? As Lu Yan nodded in agreement, Bu immediately gestured outside the box, and soon 5 fairies with different looks and wearing gauze short skirts slowly walked into the box. As the music changed, the 5 fairies also began to dance. "Brother Su, we agreed to just listen to the music." Lu Yan was enjoying the dance when he heard a slightly embarrassed voice in the corridor. "Everyone, remember to vote." Chapter 303 News about the Ruins Cave. Lu Yan glanced casually and saw that the two people who were arguing at the door downstairs had come to the corridor on the second floor, surrounded by the thin and plump girls. Lu Yan could see the two people through the gauze curtain from this angle. When passing by the box where Lu Yan was, the two people's eyes seemed to accidentally steal a few glances at the dancing fairies. This scene made Lu Yan laugh. These two people are already practitioners in the Jinden realm at such a young age. They are like the pride of heaven in any sect. Perhaps they heard Lu Yan's laughter, and the two people who originally passed by the box where Luya was. The young man with a wanton attitude suddenly turned back and stood straight outside the box where Luya was. This person, the wanton young man, was about to say something, but was suddenly stopped by his companion, who was obviously a novice. As a last resort, he turned to look at his companion, who stopped him, and asked in a voice transmission, "Brother Zhang, why did you stop me?" This man laughed at us. He actually dared to laugh at us. Brother Su, the elders in the family said that we must be kind to others and never cause trouble. And if you look carefully, the other party is also a giant and cultivator. What? The unruly young man was slightly shocked, and couldn't help but look at Luya carefully, but found that Luya's aura was clearly that of the 9th level of foundation building. But he believed his companion's words, so there was only one possibility, that the cultivation level or the exquisiteness of the person in the box in front of him was so exquisite that he couldn't see through it. "Brother Deo, my friend did not mean to offend, please forgive me," the embarrassed young man bowed to Luya and said. Then he was about to pull his companion away. Seeing this, Luya stood up from Bu's broad mind, looked at the two people at the door, and said indifferently with a hint of amusement in his eyes, "Please go ahead, both of you." The embarrassed young man bowed again, and then took the other person away quickly. This little episode had no effect on Luya. When Luya walked out of Zuhulao, it was already night. For most of the day, Luya had been drinking and chatting with several fairies. He was so generous that many of them said they could get to know each other better, but Luya declined one by one. "Bu, did you really let that young man leave like this?" Not long after Luya left, Bu was packing up the box, but two little sisters poked their heads behind the screen and asked curiously. "I couldn't stop him from leaving." What a strange guest. He insisted on dragging me and several sisters to chat for a whole day, Bu recalled, still a tightness in her chest. "It's already very good. We have heard that this young man is very generous," the two sisters teased behind the screen. Speaking of this, Bu's face also showed a hint of joy. She held her hands to her chest and lifted a bulging palace skirt. "This young man is indeed quite generous, but he seems to be in poor health. What a pity." Really?" Hearing this, the two little sisters ran into the box from behind the screen, helping to clean up while looking at Bu curiously. "I'm telling you, if Luya heard that the young lady in Zuhulao was making up rumors about him, he might not be in such a good mood." Wangchang under the night seemed to have truly come alive. The wide streets were busy with traffic, and the tea houses and wine shops on both sides of the streets were crowded with people, a prosperous scene. Luya walked on the street, constantly recalling the information he had learned in Zuhulao before. Wangchang can be roughly divided into 4 forces. Among them, the most powerful and mysterious is the City Lord system owned by the real owner of this Wangcheng, which is also a well-known force. Under the City Lord, there are 3 forces. One is the Sanayu Chamber of Commerce, which is mainly engaged in trade between various parties. It is said that in this Chamber of Commerce, as long as you can pay the price, even the moon in the sky can be picked for you. One is the Immovable Alliance, which mainly operates urban houses and land. The last one is the Fengayu Tower, which is responsible for the shady business of the entire city. These 3 forces are intertwined with each other, but they are clearly divided and do not interfere with each other. If Luya wants to find some information about the Zhang family of Chenhu domain, going to the Sanayu Chamber of Commerce is the most convenient and quickest way. Don't rush, let's taste the characteristics of this Wangchang first. Following the route provided by Bu, Luya came to a 7-story golden and magnificent restaurant. This is the Kaixing Tower, which is the best restaurant in the whole Wangcheng, as described by Bu. An ordinary meal in the Kaixing Tower is an unimaginable sky-high price for ordinary cultivators. Luya walked in, and under the guidance of the waiter, he went up to the 2nd floor and sat down by the window. "Sir, what would you like to eat?" "Just bring us one portion of the signature dishes in the building, and a pot of aged wine," Luya ordered casually. "Okay, wait a moment, sir." There were many guests in the restaurant, and Luya was lucky. If it was a little later, he might have to go to the 1st floor to eat. "Have you heard? A relic cave was discovered in Chenhuaiyu, and it seems that many monks died." While Luya was waiting, several people at the next table started chatting. "Hey, who in the whole Wangcheng doesn't know about this? Is it necessary to be cautious? It's just a relic cave. It's not normal if there are not 3 or 5 such incidents every year," another person shouted indifferently. Luya just listened, and he didn't care about the relic. However, The people at the next table became more and more excited as they talked, and soon fell into a beautiful fantasy. This is understandable. After all, the ruins and caves often represent opportunities to transcend the limitations of one's own qualifications and talents and climb the avenue. Whether in the Immortal Cultivation stories or in various legends, there will never be a lack of stories of cultivators getting opportunities and soaring to the sky. This time seems to be different. I heard that the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce and the Immovable League have begun to recruit people and plan to find out what's going on. With such a big scene, is there anything good in the ruins? I don't know what good things are, but I heard that several golden elixirs have died in the ruins. Not to mention the distant past, I have a friend in the Immovable League. He said that just a few days ago, a steward who went to the ruins left a long burning lamp in the league that suddenly went out without any signs. Hiss, this ruin is so dangerous, you must not take the risk. Tisk. The more dangerous the ruins are, the greater the opportunity. If you are scared by this little difficulty, what kind of immortality is there and what kind of avenue is there to pursue? Someone sneered disdainfully. Luya's ears were almost calloused from listening when the dishes he ordered finally arrived. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304 News about Zhang family in Qinhuayu. Well, it tastes really good. I've waited so long. Luya picked up the chopsticks and tasted the dishes on the table one by one, nodding his head. I wonder where the flying boat is now, Luya thought casually while eating the dishes. He and Lu Dingbo each had a one King cicada in their hands, but this kind of rare item was a consumable, very valuable, and quite rare. Apart from this pair, Luya had only obtained a pair, and Luya gave it to Fang Shuiyan, the fortune teller when he helped in Yang's city. Speaking of which, after so long, there was still no movement from that one King cicada. Sometimes Luya wondered if the other party had forgotten about it. Or, the other party didn't think it was useful at all. But no matter what, Luya kept the other one King cicada well. It was none of his business whether the other party used it or not, but once the one King cicada on his side was activated, he would go to help even if it was a sea of fire and swords. After finishing the meal, Luya spent more than 30 high-quality spirit stones, which was indeed worth a lot of money. After leaving the 7 Stars building, Luya headed towards the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce. The Three Domains Chamber of Commerce was not far from the 7 Stars building, but unlike the busy 7 Stars building, there were fewer people coming and going at the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce, and the faces of the cultivators coming and going were basically quite solemn, and many of them had frowns and worried faces. Before Luya arrived at the door of the Chamber of Commerce, he could feel waves of spiritual pressure coming from the building, which made him breathless. However, this spiritual pressure had no effect on Luya. He walked into the Chamber of Commerce with a normal look. At the same time, a pressure that belonged to Giant and Cultivator slightly spread from his body. The Three Domains Chamber of Commerce was shaped like an inverted bowl. The crystal lamp on the oval dome was as bright as the sun, illuminating the entire interior space. As Luya stepped in, a female receptionist with a charming figure and pretty face bowed slightly and welcomed Luya in with a very respectful attitude. My name is Wang Yuking. I wonder if you came to my Three Domains Chamber of Commerce to buy or sell or have other needs. If you want to buy or sell something, I can give you a rough estimate of the price. Luya glanced at her with a smile, then stepped forward. I don't know much about buying and selling, but I have heard that your Three Domains Chamber of Commerce is quite well informed. Our Three Domains Chamber of Commerce has been passed down for thousands of years, and it is considered a time-honored brand in the cultivation world of the Three Domains. It has always had a good reputation. Your vision is really admirable. The receptionist smiled and took Luya to a private room on the 3rd floor before continuing. Please come this way, senior. The buying and selling of information is generally private, so it will be conducted in a darkroom. Later, you will write the information you want to know on a bamboo slip and deliver it to the passage in front of you. Wait a moment and the answer will be returned. I hope it will be useful to you. After that, she served Luya spiritual tea and fruits, then got up and left the private room, closing the door. Luya sat on a chair, looking curiously at the table in front of him and a pipe connected to the other side of the table. After carefully considering for a moment, Lu Ya picked up a pen and started writing on the bamboo slips. After writing, he threw the bamboo slips into the dark pipe according to the previous description. When Lu Ya finished a cup of tea, he heard a crisp ding-dong sound in the pipe. He stood up and took 2 steps to take out a scroll from the mouth of the pipe. There was another sentence on the surface of the scroll: 30 top-grade spirit stones can unlock the scroll restriction. Lu Ya took a closer look and found that the scroll was emitting a faint spiritual light, and it was still the kind of extremely sensitive restriction. This kind of restriction is very easy to activate, and once it is activated, it will destroy the scroll in an instant. Although Lu Ya thought that he had a 1 yuan weak water that could disintegrate it silently, after all, the other party was doing business in this area, so Lu Ya naturally paid 30 top-grade spirit stones as required. As the 30 spirit stones entered the pipe, this time quickly, a crystal stone about the length of a knuckle appeared in the pipe. Lu Ya took out a crystal and stuck it on the scroll, and then the spiritual light on the scroll disappeared. Lu Ya opened the scroll and began to browse the information in it. After a while, he put down the scroll in his hand and sighed. The good news is that the family of the 9 Forging Taoist still exists and is currently located in the center of Chenhou Domain. The bad news is that the Zhang family is now developing very well. It is an old-fashioned weapon refining family in Chenhou Domain and is a guest of honor of many forces, but its reputation is a bit bad. In this way, the inheritance of the 9 Forging Taoist may not be so easy to return. Lu Ya sighed again. If the Zhang family was just a Jinden family, Lu Ya thought that with his strength, he would be able to have an equal dialogue with the other party, but now the other party is a Yuanying family, and it is also a weapon refining family with a slightly worse reputation. In this way, Lu Ya learned the core weapon refining method of the other party's ancestors. Although he is now here to return the weapon refining inheritance, there is no guarantee that the other party will have bad intentions towards him based on the idea that the law cannot be passed on to outsiders. If it comes to this, it would be a bit of a loss. However, since Lu Ya promised that Taoist Jiuruan and his family still exists, Lu Ya will complete this matter no matter what. However, how to complete it requires careful planning. In short, Lu Ya would never do such a thing as directly offering the inheritance with both hands. People have no intention of hurting tigers, but tigers have the intention of harming people's hearts, so we must be on guard. After putting away the scroll, Lu Ya stood up and walked out. Refusing the company of the receptionist, Lu Ya walked out of the 3 Domains Chamber of Commerce quickly. The center of Chenhou Domain is still a long distance away from Wangcheng. Even if Lu Ya travels day and night, it will take about half a month. But considering the speed of the Lu family, they should still be in Dongshan Domain at this moment. It may take 3 to 5 months to arrive in Songgu Domain. Therefore, Lu Ya was not too anxious. And the news he just received from Zhang's family in Chenhou Domain made him slow down his pace. Anyway, thousands of years have passed, and these few months are not a big deal. The other party didn't know about Lu Ya's existence, and didn't expect that the ancestors thousands of years ago had left such a precious inheritance. Lu Ya has made up his mind to practice while walking, and when he arrives at Chenhou City in the center of Chenhou Domain, everything will be up to fate. I think this time will not be too short, at least a few months are needed, and it is just right that he can practice well during this time and brush up his spell experience. After making the decision, Lu Ya returned to the 7 Stars Tower, opened a room in an independent courtyard, and temporarily lived in Wangcheng. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 305 Fermentation. In the dim training room, Lu Ya slowly opened his eyes. He had been in Wangcheng for half a month, and his days were very regular. Every day, apart from training, he would listen to some songs to cultivate his sentiments. Lu Ya walked out of the training room and came to his own courtyard. The sun was about to set, and only a trace of afterglow hung stubbornly in the sky. Dong dong dong. A crisp sound came from the closed door in front of the courtyard, followed by a slightly wan voice. Brother Wang, it's time. If you dawdle for a while, you will miss Miss Wan Wan's performance. Lu Ya shook his head helplessly, and then his mind moved, and the closed door automatically opened to both sides. The people standing outside the door were not polite and quickly walked into the courtyard. They were the 2 young people who had reached the golden elixir stage that Lu Ya had first seen in Zuhu Tower. Perhaps because they were all Xianjiao monks who had formed the golden elixir early, and had common interests and hobbies, they met more often in Zuhu Tower, and became familiar with each other after a few visits. The slightly wanton and uninhibited young man was named Su Bin, and the embarrassed young man he had seen before was named Zhang Daoying. As for the background behind the two, since they were only familiar friends, Lu Ya did not explore it. Just like the two of them did not know the specific details of Lu Ya, this was a tacit understanding between them. Since they met the two, Su Bin would come on time every evening to call people and drag Lu Ya and Zhang Daoying into Zhu Hulao. Sure enough, as Su Bin stepped into the courtyard, Zhang Daoying also appeared at the gate of the courtyard and smiled helplessly at Lu Ya. Compared with the embarrassment when they first met, Zhang Daoying is now much more generous. He is not as resistant to going to Zhu Hulao as before. Now he can even let the fairies in Zhu Hulao hold his hands and listen to their intimate words. It's strange to say that whether it is Su Bin or Lu Ya himself, they are not bad in appearance and temperament, but the girls in Zhu Hulao still like Zhang Daoying, who is a little restrained the most. Aren't you ready to go out now? Brother Su is still as undeterred as ever. Lu Ya made a joke, and then the three of them walked out of the restaurant together. Not long after, Zhu Hulao was already in sight. Hurry up, Biao, reserve the second floor box for us, we'll be there soon. Before entering the door, Su Bin shouted to Biao not far away, causing Lu Ya and Zhang Daoying to slow down their pace tacitly and distance themselves from him. Why are you two walking so slowly? Come up quickly, don't let Miss Wanwan wait for too long. After Su Bin shouted, he turned around and found that Lu Ya and the others were already 2 or 3 feet behind him, and immediately urged them. This is the conspicuous bag in the world of cultivation. Lu Ya was a little helpless, but he still followed Zhang Daoying. In the box, the 3 people listened to the sound of Miss Wanwan's piano playing, and they felt comfortable all over, as if they were much more relaxed. Miss Wanwan is really a master of music. I wish I could listen to Miss Wanwan's performance every day. Su Bin drank the fine wine in the glass and sighed. Lu Ya deeply agreed. Zhu Hulao still has a lot of background. A character like Miss Wanwan, who is proficient in music and even has skills close to Taoism, is not a cabbage. There are as many as you want. But I say, Brother Su, it stands to reason that when you practice to the level of you and me, there should be corresponding education courses in the family. But why are you still so sincere? Lu Ya thought carefully and asked with a little curiosity. He was not saying this casually. Even their Lu family had clear records that when the disciples of the family came of age, they would be led by the elders to see the market, so as to be exposed to more and wider information. At the same time, if they encounter similar situations in the future, they don't have to worry too much. Hey, Brother Wang, you don't know, when it comes to this, Su Bin's face turned bitter, as if he finally had someone to confide in for the grievances he had suffered for many years. You don't know, those old-fashioned people in our family insisted that I was a whimsical person. I didn't experience anything that other brothers and sisters should have experienced when they became adults. They insisted that I could experience it only after I became a golden elixir. Su Bin drank another glass of wine, and continued with a little drunkenness. For this, I practiced day and night. Finally, I became a golden elixir, and those old-fashioned people put new restrictions on me. I didn't want to serve them anymore. I ran away from home while they were still not aware of it. After I came out, I realized that life was so beautiful. For 30 years. I don't know how I got through it. After saying that, Su Bin fragilely fell into the arms of the girl behind him, allowing the girl to comfort him. Lu Ya, Zhang Daoying, can you be a little thicker? The two looked at each other and saw the meaning in each other's eyes. Seeing that both of them looked at him strangely, Su Bin coughed twice and changed the subject. Brother Zhang, Brother Wang, I wonder if you two are interested in the newly discovered relic cave. Lu Ya glanced at Su Bin, then shook his head and said, it's just a relic. It shouldn't be very attractive to us. This is not Lu Ya's nonsense, but his true feelings. For Lu Ya, as long as he is given enough time, he can continue to make progress according to his established route. As for the opportunity to climb the avenue represented by the relic cave, it is basically not very attractive to him. After all, his avenue has been clearly presented in front of him, as long as he walks forward slowly step by step. Zhang Daoying also nodded in agreement. He really looked down on this so-called relic cave. The opportunity treasures that outsiders fight for are all things that are within his reach. You two, don't you pay any attention to it at all? Su Bin looked at the two helplessly, beating his chest and stamping his feet. Lu Ya and the other two shook their heads. Seeing this, Su Bin sighed and said, forget it, I'll be frank. The inheritance and treasures in this relic are not very attractive to us. But there is one thing in it that is a rare treasure for you and me. Oh? What kind of treasure is it that makes Brother Su pay so much attention to it? Zhang Daoying said. It's a Daoyun thing. There are Daoyun things produced in the cave of the relic, Su Bin said directly. Looking at the slightly shocked eyes of Lu Yat and the other two, Su Bin's heart moved, and he asked tentatively, you two don't know, right? This matter has been spread like wildfire in the outside world, and you two really don't know. Lu Yer picked up the wine glass with some embarrassment, and Zhang Daoying did the same. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 306, The Remains of the Human Devil Battlefield. Ahem, I've gained something recently, so I've been immersed in cultivation, and I've neglected the news from the outside world, Lu Yer raised his glass and said at the same time. Zhang Daoying pondered for a long time, and finally uttered a sentence, me too, haha, I don't believe it. You two have been listening to music and watching plays with me for 2 days. What kind of cultivation are you immersed in? Su Bin looked at the two of them with a fake smile, his eyes full of pride. Lu Yer knew that he couldn't explain it at this time, otherwise, with a degree of willfulness of the man in front of him, he would definitely hold on to it, so he asked doubtfully, things with a rhyme of Taoism can't be born casually. As far as I know, generally only after the death of a demon beast with a strong bloodline and strong strength, the probability of birth is the highest. The second is the condensation of the remains of human cultivators after their death. In addition, there are some natural treasures of heaven and earth that naturally condense the rhyme of Taoism. But these three are not easy to encounter. Could it be that the ruins of the cave mansion? At this point, Lu Yan turned his eyes to Su Bin. You know, he has only obtained a Daoyun object once in all these years, which was the one-horned green bull with the blood of the divine beast Queen Ni that he killed. Since then, even if he killed the Demon King, even participated in the war between humans and demons, and killed countless demons, he still has not obtained a Daoyun object again. This shows how precious and rare Daoyun objects are. But now, Su Bin said that there is a Daoyun object behind a relic cave. If there is no accurate statement, then there is a great possibility that some people secretly released false information. As for the purpose, haven't you heard that the relic has killed several giants? It is not difficult to recruit some cannon fodder who are dazzled by opportunities through this method. Su Bin waved his hand to set up a soundproof ban, and said in a deep voice, I know what my brother means, but this is not false news. I have also investigated these days and found that Daoyun objects that have never been auctioned before have appeared frequently recently, and all the information points to the ruins of the cave. According to some clues, I found that the ruins are very likely a small battlefield of the great war between humans and demons that swept the entire cultivation world tens of thousands of years ago. Although it is a small battlefield, the highest combat power is estimated to be above the level of incarnation. Therefore, only this situation can explain the birth of such a large number of Daoyun objects. The war between humans and demons, Lu Ye repeated, feeling a little confused. He had never heard of any war between humans and demons in his practice. Zhang Daoying seemed to see Lu Ye's doubts, so he explained, the war between humans and demons has been about 70,000 years since the current cultivation world. The strength of the human race at that time may be a few points stronger than it is now, but it was still beaten back by the demons from outer space. Whether it is mortals, cultivators or monsters in this world, they were all slaughtered by the demons. However, the human race is fighting on its own land after all. After experiencing the disaster of almost extinction, the human race, the demon race, etc., finally joined forces and finally killed all the demons who invaded the world. However, after this battle, the strength of the human race has been reduced by 80%, and the demon race is not much better. Even the continent under our feet has been sunk for several pieces. The endless sea in the east of the southwest region is said to be the land that was shattered in the war between humans and demons. Is the endless sea the result of human creation? Lu Yang only felt a constant buzzing in his head. The vast and boundless endless sea was actually a continent in its predecessor. Because it was sunk in the war between humans and demons, it formed the endless sea today. It was just like a fairy tale. Lu Yer fell silent for a rare moment. Zhang Daoying and Su Bin looked at each other and did not speak. They just waited quietly. After a while, Lu Yer let out a long sigh and said apologetically, I'm sorry to have embarrassed you two. This is the first time I've heard of the information about the war between humans and demons. Normally, when I first learned about it, my reaction was exactly the same as yours. Su Bin grinned, and Zhang Daoying nodded. Lu Ya continued, so, According to Brother Su's guess, it might be more appropriate to call that ruins cave abode a battlefield, because a large number of human cultivators and demons died, and after their death, Daoyun objects were born. Su Bin nodded and affirmed, that should be the case. The three major forces in Wangcheng should have discovered something, so they are constantly accumulating strength, waiting for the time to enter the battlefield ruins and plunder the large number of Daoyun objects in it. No, if that's the case, shouldn't the three major forces publicize it everywhere? With their strength, it would be a more correct choice to take it all. After all, the more people know about it, the more people may get a share of it, right? Lu Ye raised an objection. Brother Wang, you don't think there is no danger in the ruins battlefield, right? That was the battlefield between the human race and the demon race 70,000 years ago. It's not an exaggeration to say that there are dangers everywhere. Even after so many years, there are definitely many great horrors in it, Su Bin said solemnly. So I think it's not safe for me to go in alone. If the three of us go together, the safety can be improved a lot. What do you think? After Su Bin finished speaking, both Lu Ye and Zhang Daoying fell into deep thought. If there is a Dao rhyme related to speed or body refining, then my progress in practicing magic will be greatly improved, just like the Dao rhyme left by the corpse of the one-horned green bull. Lu Ye's heart moved slightly. If so, it would be worthwhile to break into this battlefield ruins. Just when Lu Ye made up his mind and raised his head, Zhang Daoying beside him also raised his head almost at the same time. It's an opportunity. If we ignore it, it would be our fault, Zhang Daoying said with a hint of excitement in his dark eyes that seemed to reflect the stars. Hearing this, Lu Ye also smiled slightly. It's just a battlefield relic. If you don't take this opportunity, you might as well go home and become a rich man as soon as possible. Ha ha ha, that's right. Su Bin laughed loudly, raised his glass and clinked it with Lu Ye, then raised his head and drank it all. The three of them had reached an agreement. And the opera and dance in Zuhulao no longer had the same appeal as before. After paying the bill, the three of them quickly returned to the courtyard rented by Lu Ye and quickly entered the practice room. Entering the practice room, Lu Ye sent a magic power to the token hanging next to the door of the practice room, and suddenly an invisible wave enveloped the entire courtyard. Unless Lu Ye took the initiative to open it inside, even if a giant and cultivator came, he would not be able to do anything for a while. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 307 In-Depth Communication. In the training room, Lu Ye and the other two sat opposite each other. Su Bin suggested, since we have decided to go to the ruins of the human-demon battlefield together, let's not talk about anything else. We should get to know each other. This way, no matter what we encounter, we can know what we are doing. What do you think? Although he seemed to be asking the two people, Su Bin's eyes were actually looking at Lu Ye, waiting for his answer. The reason was naturally very simple. Su Bin and Zhang Daoying were friends and they knew each other. On the contrary, Lu Ye, who was also a young Jindan's Henren, was not something they knew at all. The only thing they could say about Lu Ye was that they had made an appointment to listen to music at Zuhulao together. Perhaps there was some mutual appreciation between them. After all, they were both such young Jindan's Henren. Zhang Daoying also looked at Lu Ye quite seriously, waiting for his answer. Lu Ye felt the gazes of the two people, his expression did not change, and he just said lightly, of course, since we are going to go together, it is also appropriate to have an understanding of each other. After Lu Ye finished speaking, Su Bin and the others' originally serious expressions relaxed. Lu Ye pondered for a moment before continuing, as you two can see, I am Wang Tang, a Jindan in the early stage of cultivation. I am good at fire magic and wind magic. I also know a little about body training and thunder magic. As for magic weapons, I only have one magic weapon of offensive nature. Regarding what Lu Ye said, both Su Bin and Zhang Daoying nodded seriously and cautiously. Lu Ye's personal situation was already quite detailed, and they also had a relatively general understanding of Lu Ye's personal cultivation and magic. However, after listening to Lu Ye's words, the two of them raised their evaluation of Lu Ye to a higher level in their hearts. You know, whether it is cultivation or practicing magic, it is extremely time-consuming, and it also requires a certain level of aptitude and understanding. At their age, it is already very difficult to cultivate to the Jindan realm. Lu Ye can build on this foundation and have a certain level of attainment in fire and wind magic. It is absolutely amazing aptitude and understanding. Su Bin smiled and said, Brother Wang is indeed a natural talent. At such a young age, He not only has a high level of cultivation, but also has great accomplishments in fire and wind magic. I really admire him." Zhang Daoying also nodded in agreement. Then Su Bin pointed at himself and said, "I am Su Bin, a giant in the early stage of cultivation, specializing in earth magic. As for magic weapons, because the elders in my family care about me a lot, I have one for attack, defense and flying. Therefore, if we enter the ruins and encounter an unbeatable situation, we may be able to escape with the help of flying magic weapons." Really rich, Lu Ye showed a trace of surprise in his eyes. This is the real heir of a powerful family. Not only is he a giant's henrin at a young age, but the skills and magic he practiced must be extremely exquisite and mysterious. You must know that there is an aptitude problem between magic and magic. This is what the cultivation world often calls the problem of cultivation aptitude. For example, if the aptitude is biased towards the fire element, then practicing the magic of the fire element is the most suitable. And the other magics are relatively difficult. But ordinary cultivators do not have the conditions to specialize in a type of magic, and most of the time they just practice whatever they have. Only those who carry the inheritance, with a complete inheritance, have the conditions to specialize in the magic that best suits them. And this kind of specialized cultivators often have stronger combat effectiveness and survival ability than ordinary cultivators. Not to mention, Su Bin is a rich man. The 3 magic weapons on his body are not even equipped by many late giant cultivators. Facing Lu Ye's exclamation, Su Bin remained calm on the surface, but he was secretly happy in his heart. If an ordinary foundation-building cultivator looked at him with such eyes, he would not feel anything, but Lu Ye is a genius of the same level as him. It is a real satisfaction to make such a genius amazed. After listening to Su Bin's speech, Lu Ye turned his eyes to Zhang Daoying again, and was quite expectant. Seeing this, Zhang Daoying did not hesitate and said slowly, "Brother Wang, I am Zhang Daoying, also in the early stage of Jiandan, and I am a sword cultivator." Lu Ye nodded and waited for his follow-up, but after waiting for a while, he saw that Zhang Daoying still didn't say anything, and he couldn't help but be a little surprised. Su Bin couldn't bear it anymore, and wanted to grab Zhang Daoying's shoulders and shake him wildly, baring his teeth and roaring, "That's it? Where is your natural sword seed? Where is your supreme sword heart?" After hearing Su Bin's words, Zhang Daoying hurriedly waved his hands modestly, and looked at Lu Ye in embarrassment. "This is not something worth talking about, why bother to say it?" Lu Ye was really a little shocked. Natural sword seed, supreme sword heart. As the name suggests, the natural sword seed is naturally friendly to sword weapons, and practicing sword techniques and swordsmanship will be twice the result with half the effort. At the same time, the use of sword weapons is more powerful. People with natural sword seeds are known as the peak of killing at the same level, which shows their terrifying killing power. The supreme sword heart is a talent that is not inferior to the natural sword seed. As the saying goes, the sword heart is clear. People with the supreme sword heart have a sharp soul like a sword, and will not be confused by illusions, bewitching and other means. While being naturally immune to control, his understanding of swordsmanship and swordplay is beyond the understanding of ordinary people. He can use all kinds of sword techniques at will, and the power is also incredibly strong. Any one of these 2 talents has the potential to become a peerless sword cultivator, and the rather shy young man in front of him has both, which is incredible. Lu Ye even has some doubts. A genius of this level should not be allowed to go out alone in any force. Maybe there are some protectors hiding in the dark, waiting silently outside their courtyard. Brother Zhang, don't be too modest. This kind of talent is probably invincible among the golden elixir, Lu Ye guessed. At the same time, he was secretly thinking in his heart, wondering who would win or lose against the sword cultivator in front of him who has the natural sword seed and the supreme sword heart. It's really exciting. Lu Ye's eyes showed obvious fighting intentions, which made Su Bin laugh and said with emotion, "Brother Wang, although I know you will definitely not be happy after hearing this, I still want to advise you not to try to compete with Brother Zhang, otherwise you will definitely be depressed to the point of wanting to vomit blood. When your every step is predicted by Brother Zhang in advance, the feeling of having power but know where to use it is really uncomfortable." Lu Ye also smiled when he heard this. It seems that Su Bin must have competed with Zhang Daoying, otherwise he would not say such a thing. How can a supreme swordsman like Brother Zhang not make people itchy? After exploring the ruins, I will definitely compete with Brother Zhang. I hope Brother Zhang will not hesitate to give me some advice. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 308 Departure. Zhang Daoying nodded and did not refuse. Okay, Su Bin clapped his hands, attracting the attention of the two. We have a general understanding, so we need to discuss when to set off for the remains of the human-demon battlefield. I will trouble you, Brother Su, for this matter. After all, Brother Zhang and I really don't pay much attention to it, Lu Ya said with a smile. Hey, it was my suggestion. Su Bin waved his hand, and then said, as far as I know, the three forces in Wangcheng, except for the Fengaiyu Tower hidden in the dark, the three domains Chamber of Commerce and the Immovable League have all taken action. They are the ones who have been recruiting people in the city recently. They should go to the ruins in a few days, and then a large number of cultivators will surely pour into the ruins. So I have two suggestions. First, we should make preparations in the next few days, and when the time is right, we will enter the ruins together with the cultivators of the three domains Chamber of Commerce and the Immovable League. The advantage of this is that there will be enough cultivators to travel with us, and even if we encounter danger, it will be shared by everyone, and it will not be borne by just the three of us. After Su Bin finished speaking, both Lu Ya and Zhang Daoying nodded in agreement. This was indeed a good idea. The second is that we set off immediately and enter the ruins directly with our speed. This way, we can shorten the time for the people from the three domains Chamber of Commerce to enter and gain more time to explore the ruins. The advantage is that the time and area for exploration are larger, but the disadvantage is that no one will explore the way for us. If we encounter danger, we can only fight it ourselves. The two options were placed in front of them. For a moment, the training room fell into a brief silence. After a while, Lu Ya asked, I have a question. Do we have a way to enter this ruins? After the voice fell, a trace of embarrassment flashed across Su Bin's face. No way. After saying so much, there is no way to enter the ruins. Ahem. This method is not a problem. It can be obtained quickly. Now the main problem is which clan to choose. Su Bin coughed a few times and then changed the subject. Lu Ya and Zhang Daoying looked at each other and saw the black line on each other's head. What should I do? I met a master who is not very reliable. This is the only way. After thinking for a while, Lu Ya said, if we consider safety, it is a safer way to go with the three domains Chamber of Commerce and others, but if we consider time and privacy, it is a more appropriate choice for us to go first. If the method to enter the ruins is not difficult, in fact, relatively speaking, the second option is more suitable for us. After all, with the strength of the three of us, unless we encounter dangers at the level of unyielding in the ruins, other situations will not hinder our steps. If we encounter dangers at the level of unyielding, no matter how many cannon fodders there are, it will be useless. Right, that's true. Su Bin and Zhang Daoying thought carefully and found that it seemed to be true. Then let's decide for the time being, and wait until I get a method to enter the ruins, and then make a decision. How about it? Su Bin asked. Lu Ya and the two looked at each other and nodded in agreement. The next morning, Su Bin appeared outside Lu Ya's courtyard, with Zhang Daoying beside him. Lu Ya welcomed the two in, and the three sat down on the stone bench in the courtyard. As soon as he sat down, Su Bin couldn't wait to say, Brother Wang, we have a way to enter the ruins. It's very simple. The ruins of the human-demon battlefield have formed a space vortex. As long as we reach there, we can reach the ruins through the space vortex. So simple. Lu Ya was a little surprised. Su Bin nodded. It is so simple, but for ordinary cultivators, only foundation-building cultivators can barely enter. Key training cultivators can basically not resist the tearing force of the space vortex. If they enter rashly, they will be torn to pieces by the space vortex until there is nothing left. Moreover, because of the instability of the space vortex, beings with too high cultivation cannot pass through it. For example, unyielding cultivators, the spiritual energy fluctuations they emit can easily conflict with the space vortex, which will cause the space vortex to collapse. Once the space vortex collapses, the unyielding cultivator will be buried in the space turbulence, and the hope of survival is extremely slim. In other words, in this human-demon battlefield ruins, we only need to face giant-level opponents, and there are no unyielding cultivators. Lu Ya asked. If this is true, this is good news. Zhang Daoying took over and said, that's true, but I'm not sure if there are any nascent soul cultivators who dare to gamble their lives. If the space vortex doesn't collapse, then there will be nascent soul cultivators among the opponents we face. This possibility is extremely small. Nascent soul cultivators themselves have already come into contact with the existence of condensed Daoyun. Daoyun objects are no longer so useful to them. In their eyes, Daoyun objects are not so precious, Su Bin added. Lu Yu nodded. In this way, the safety of this trip to the ruins can be guaranteed. He made a decision in his heart. When Lu Ya looked up, he saw Su Bin and Zhang Daoying looking at him. How about it, Brother Wang? Which plan should we choose? Su Bin asked. Lu Yu smiled and said, Brother Su should have an answer, then let's go now. Okay, haha, I said that Brother Wang is a man of swift and decisive actions. Brother Zhang, am I right? Hearing this, Su Bin turned his head to look at Zhang Daoying and smiled arrogantly. Zhang Daoying looked at Su Bin helplessly. He couldn't understand why he was so impetuous and didn't have the dignity of a Jinden's Henren, even though he was already a Jinden's Henren. How about we set off now without delay? Su Bin asked calmly after he finished laughing and returned to normal. No problem, okay. Lu Ya left the rented courtyard. The three of them walked out of Chenho Gate quickly, then set up a rainbow light and flew quickly towards the direction of Chenho Domain. After flying for a long time, Wang Cheng had completely disappeared, and below was a vast mountain forest. Su Bin waved his hand in the air, and a green rainbow flashed by. Then a flying boat that seemed to be carved from green jade appeared in front of Lu Yang. The flying boat was suspended in the air, and the boat body exuded waves of spiritual energy, which was extremely extraordinary. This is my flying magic weapon, called Kingxi. The ruins are still far away. In order to save mana consumption, we should take the flying boat, Su Bin said to the two of them. Zhang Daoying had no objection, and Lu Ya also had no objection. So the three of them jumped onto the flying boat, which turned into a green rainbow and shot forward at half the speed of the three of them. Dear all, remember to vote. Chapter 309 The Mysterious Old Man and Entering the Ruins. 3 days later, a green flying boat appeared among the mountains. The rainbow light outside the flying boat slowly dissipated, revealing Lu Yang, Su Bin and Zhang Daoying. In a low valley surrounded by mountains, in the rolling white fog, wisps of black air were spreading outward from the valley. Is this the destination of this trip, the remains of the human-demon battlefield? Lu Ya stood on the flying boat and leaned down to look. With his eyesight, he easily found many traces of human beings walking around the valley. Some traces were still very clear, proving that there should be some people exploring in this ruins. There is nothing strange about this valley. Why is there a remains of a human-demon battlefield in it? Su Bin stroked his chin, thinking. Maybe it was a cave paradise owned by a certain force in the past, which was discovered by the demons and the two fought in it, or it was a trap set by the predecessors to catch the demons in one fell swoop. Zhang Daoying expressed his guess. That makes sense, but why think so much? The demons have disappeared for 70,000 years. Now, for us, the greatest gain is to find some usable Daorim from this ruins. Su Bin clapped his hands. Lu Ya and Zhang Daoying nodded, with a little expectation in their eyes. Su Bin asked, so, are we ready to enter it? Seeing that Lu Ya and the others did not object, he put away the flying boat under his feet again, and the three of them drove the rainbow light and slowly approached the valley where the black air was emitting. Lu Ya painted himself with a thick layer of unyielding spirit shield, and then cautiously approached the black and white mist in front of him. The mist came into contact with his unyielding spirit shield, and a slight corrosion sound came from the spirit shield on his body. Lu Ya's eyes were slightly focused, and his spiritual consciousness was probed, and he found that there was some black air attached to the surface of his unyielding spirit shield at this moment, and the slight corrosion sound came from the connection between the black air and the spirit shield. This should be the spiritual energy of heaven and earth that leaked out from the ruins and was polluted by the demonic energy, so it has a trace of the characteristics of the demonic energy. But don't worry. For cultivators at the foundation building stage and above, the body protection aura can block this trace of polluted aura. Zhang Daoying analyzed. Lu Ya looked at him and found that Zhang Daoying's body was covered with a thin layer of magic aura. Whenever the black gas wanted to corrode the magic aura, a sword light flashed and shattered the black gas. At first glance, the sword light the size of rice grains flashed around Zhang Daoying, looking mysterious and handsome. Tisk, this sword cultivator is different. No wonder there is a saying that the degree of handsomeness is proportional to the lethality. The better the appearance and the more handsome the sword cultivator, the more terrifying the lethality under the seemingly handsome appearance. Only the garbage sword cultivator will look plain and simple. Lu Ya was a little jealous. Zhang Daoying looked so handsome. After confirming that the black and white mist in front of them was not dangerous, the figures of Lu Ya and the other two slowly disappeared into the valley. After the three of them entered the valley for a while, a shadow appeared from nothing, and slowly solidified above the valley. It was an old man with white hair and beard wearing a linen Taoist robe. His old eyes looked at the mist in the valley, and his eyes moved slowly, as if he could see through the mist and directly see Liu Yang and the other two who were moving slowly forward. After a few glances, the white-haired old man took out an expensive jade sword for communication, and his consciousness fluctuated. Dao Ying has gone to a human-demon battlefield with the two of them. Because of the existence of the space vortex, I can only stay outside the vortex and wait for Dao Ying to return. After the communication was completed, he put away the jade sword, and his figure disappeared out of thin air, without a trace of existence. In the mist, Liu Yan and Su Bin were walking carefully. Fortunately, although the visibility in the mist was extremely low, there was no danger in it. Soon, a regular wave swept through the bodies of the three people, and the three people immediately understood. After walking for about a cup of tea, a slowly rotating dark vortex appeared in front of the three people. The vortex was vertical to the ground and about 10 feet high. As the vortex rotated, wisps of black air were thrown out and combined with the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. It just stayed quietly in the air, like the eternal flow of time, exuding a charming and deadly temptation. "This is the entrance," Su Bin said. "If there is no problem, just go in." After speaking, Su Bin waved his hand and sprinkled a handful of dark yellow gravel. The gravel was suspended around him, giving him extremely powerful protection. Liu Ya saw this scene, and as a weapon refiner, he understood that the handful of gravel should be the defensive magic weapon that Su Bin had. After arranging the defense, Su Bin took the lead in stepping into the space vortex. In the eyes of Liu Ya and Zhang Daoying, the space vortex did not change at all, and Su Bin's figure had disappeared in it. "Brother Zhang, let's go together," Liu Ya asked. Zhang Daoying nodded. So Liu Ya and Zhang Daoying stepped forward at the same time. When the two of them stepped into the space vortex, the white-haired old man who had appeared before suddenly appeared at the place where Zhang Daoying had stood before disappearing. The feeling of stepping into the space vortex was very strange, like stepping on flat land, and like being in the surging waves. The strong sense of contrast gave Liu Ya a strong and dazzling illusion. At the same time, Liu Ya also felt that there were many chaotic forces tearing at his defense. Liu Ya guessed that this force should be the tearing force generated by space transmission. The transmission time was not long, just a few breaths. Liu Ya's eyes suddenly lit up, but he had already entered the ruins. The next moment, Liu Ya's body suddenly tensed up, and he disappeared from the spot with a tap of his feet. After changing 3 positions in a row to ensure that there was no danger, Liu Ya stopped and looked around. The sky above was gray, and everything was dark. There was a small amount of gray-black flocks in the air, floating slowly with the flow of air. The ground under his feet was so black that it was almost white. Liu Ya stepped on it lightly and found that the ground under his feet was quite hard. As for the figures of Su Bin and Zhang Daoying, they had disappeared. This was because the final landing point was deviated due to the slight difference in orientation during the space transmission. I didn't care about these. After all, I entered the ruins and would see them later. Liu Ya carefully observed the distribution of the gray-black flocks in the air. After a while, he looked in a direction and began to move forward. Chapter 310 Dao Yun transforms into weapons. According to Su Bin, the area of the ruins is not small. If you don't know the correct method, it is very easy to get lost in the ruins. It is also very simple to distinguish. Just observe the concentration of gray-black flocks in the air. The thicker the flocks, the closer it is to the center of the ruins. Conversely, it is far away from the central area of the ruins. Tap, tap, tap. Steady and powerful footsteps sounded inside the ruins. Liu Ya had a blank expression and slowly moved in the chosen direction. He had been walking for an hour, and everything in his eyes had hardly changed at all. If it weren't for the increasing flocks in the air, Liu Ya would have doubted whether he was moving at all. After walking forward for a while, Liu Ya's footsteps suddenly stopped. He frowned slightly and looked at a figure lying on the ground not far ahead. It was obviously a dead monk. Not far from the body, there were 2 magic tools scattered around, and there was also a dimly colored CD. Liu Ya was not in a hurry to search for spoils. From what he saw, the 2 magic weapons next to the corpse and the dull-colored disc were made with completely different craftsmanship. The magic weapons were almost the same as the mainstream refining techniques today, but the refining techniques shown on the disc were probably thousands or tens of thousands of years ago. Taoram thing, Lu Yu looked at the disc that was emitting a faint light and muttered to himself. Then he drew out the Jianshou knife and prepared for battle. The next moment, he raised his hand and shot a finger of extermination at the disc. Ding! A crisp collision sound was heard, and the sharp aura on the disc flashed and disappeared into thin air along with the attacking finger of extermination. Lu Yu felt the extremely sharp aura, and looked at the monk who fell to the ground and died, and understood in his heart. The sharp aura just now could dissipate with his finger of extermination, which means that its lethality is extremely strong. The monk was probably killed by it. If I accept the Dao Yun, which is similar to the sharp nature, it may be of some help to my understanding of the swordsmanship. Lu Yu thought so and stepped forward. Perhaps sensing something, the optical disc made a soft hum. Lu Yu saw that the gray-black flux and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth around the optical disc quickly gathered towards the optical disc, and in a short time, an illusory figure holding a disc was formed, which was between reality and illusion. Dao Yun turned into a soldier. Lu Yu felt the aura of the early stage of the golden elixir emanating from the illusory figure, and then looked at the disc in his hand. He knew in his heart that if he wanted to get the disc, he had to defeat the illusory figure in front of him. It's just an outer disc, and the person it turned into is actually a person who has just entered the golden elixir. I wonder how powerful those Dao Yun turned into soldiers will be when they go deeper, Lu Yu muttered to himself, and then tapped his hands continuously, and continuously tapped out the finger force of extermination. At the same time, the illusory figure holding the disc suddenly disappeared from the original place, and his body was like a ghost, constantly advancing in the direction where Lu Yu was. Bang! The illusory figure dodged 5 or 6 life-destroying fingers in succession, and then accidentally got hit by one of them. Then, the life-destroying fingers kept hitting him. When the illusory figure was hit by the 4th attack, it exploded into a ball of gray-black flux, and the disc fell to the ground with a clang. Lu Yu stepped forward and took the disc into his hand, but found that the Dao Rime on it was very small, almost to the point of being undetectable. Obviously, the disc was useless, and the Dao Rime was gone. It was just an ordinary item that had been baptized by time and years. As expected, after just a few breaths, as the last trace of Dao Rime on the disc dissipated, the disc also weathered into dust in an instant and fell from Lu Yu's hand. Does this mean that we must look for powerful items with more Dao Rime? Those items that only have a trace of Dao Rime will no longer be able to preserve Dao Rime after a fight. After Lu Yu figured it out, he patted the dust in his hand, crossed the dead body on the ground, and continued to move forward. I don't know if this ruins is too large or because there are not many monks who come here to fight for their lives. In short, Lu Yu has not encountered any living creatures except the corpse he saw before. But gradually, Lu Yu can see the traces left after the battle. It is a pale skeleton, half buried in the ground. Because of the passage of time, the gray bones are stained with indelible black. There is a smooth fracture at his neck. Obviously, this person was killed by this brilliant and dazzling blow before he died. This kind of remains will not be able to condense Dao Rime. Seeing this, Lu Yu regained his spirits, walked around the dead body, and continued to walk inside. Gradually, there were more and more traces of battles on the road. Lu Yu could even see multiple corpses, some human, and some obviously not human corpses. At the same time, Lu Yu also saw several cultivators who entered the ruins. Those people moved forward cautiously. In front of them was a burly man in the false pale realm with 3 defensive spells. Lu Yu shook his head. With only the foundation building cultivation, the probability of casualties in such a place is much higher than in other places. But it is undeniable that high risks also represent extremely rich rewards. As long as a few people get a Taoist charm, they can sell it to the outside world and immediately get a large amount of spirit stones, which is enough to supply the cultivation of the foundation building period. Passing by the few people, they were like frightened birds, hiding behind the burly man, with their magic power ready to go. However, after seeing Lu Yu leave without any pause, they slowly relaxed. Another Jinden's Henrun. This is the 7th Jinden's Henrun we have met. When Lu Yu walked away, the burly man in the front wiped the sweat from his forehead and sighed. That's right. With so many Jinden gathered in this relic, a war might break out. At that time, we can only accept our fate. A slightly younger voice came from behind the burly man. The burly man was about to say something else, but suddenly his face changed drastically, and he bowed forward respectfully. I am Zhang Yichuan. I wonder what you want me to do. In front of him was Lu Yu, who turned back. Lu Yu had a blank expression on his face and asked, Have you seen a Jinden-level youth with a wanton demeanor and a Jinden sword cultivator in a white robe? Facing Lu Ya's question, several people looked at each other, all with a look of confusion, indicating that they really had never seen them. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311, The Sting Hidden in the Dark. Lu Ya was not surprised at all by this result. This battlefield ruins was too huge. It was normal that dozens or hundreds of people were deployed in it and did not see it. He just wanted to ask around. If the other party had seen it, it would be a pleasant surprise. Ignoring the nervous and hostile people, Lu Ya turned and left. It was not until Lu Ya walked away that the burly man in the front wiped the sweat on his forehead with lingering fear, and then turned to look at the people behind him and said, "This ghost place is getting more and more dangerous. I'm afraid it is no longer suitable for us foundation-building cultivators to explore." Fellow Taoist Zhang, what do you mean? Are you going to return empty-handed like this? Hearing the retreat in the burly man's words, a person behind him couldn't help but speak out. The burly man stared at him for 3 full breaths, and then said, "I have decided to go to the alternative place we found before, give it a try, and no matter success or failure, I will withdraw from this ruins." That alternative place, the others were startled, then thought about it carefully, and finally nodded. That's good. I heard that the main force of Wang Cheng is about to arrive. If we leave before they arrive, we can avoid a lot of unnecessary trouble. Agreed. Lu Ya walked on the black ground filled with gray and black flying catkins. As he went deeper, even the air seemed to have a hint of ominous smell. Demon clan, what kind of thing is this? From the tone of Su Bin and the others, this demon clan seems to be different from the demon clan I know. Lu Ya held the Zuinul spirit shield and walked forward while thinking in his mind. The war that took place 70,000 years ago suddenly appeared in the form of ruins after such a long time. I don't know whether it is good or bad. But it's not a rare thing after all, otherwise Su Bin and the others wouldn't know this distant secret. But speaking of it, Lu Ya is still a little curious about the forces behind Su Bin and Zhang Daoying. Especially Zhang Daoying, a sword cultivator with a natural sword species and supreme sword heart. He had never even heard of it before. On the one hand, it may be that he can't get in touch with it, and on the other hand, this kind of existence rarely appears in the eyes of the general public. In other words, when this kind of existence appears in the eyes of the general public, it means that it has grown to the point where it can cope with most risks, and even has become the master of a force. I really hope to fight with Brother Zhang. With his talent and background, he must have mastered magical powers. I don't know who is stronger between this level of swordsman and me, Lu Ya murmured to himself, and then said, "Swordsmen are good at killing and showing off, while I am relatively average. I have no shortage of killing power, and my speed is also okay. I have body training and magic for defense. From this point of view, Brother Zhang should be a proper assassin, and I can be regarded as a half-meat warrior, or the kind of warrior with no obvious shortcomings. If we really fight, I can make many mistakes, but he can't make a mistake. If I am hit by him, I can continue to fight, but if he is hit by me, the battle will end in an instant." Thinking of this, Lu Ya felt more confident. However, this depends on whether Brother Zhang Daoist's sword attack strength is superb. If it is so strong that my defense is as weak as paper after one blow, then no matter how half-tank a warrior is, he will be a piece of cake. Lu Ya used the game he often played in his previous life to compare the two of them, and finally came to a conclusion. Just as he was letting his thoughts fly, the scene in front of him suddenly changed. The gray-black flying catkins and wisps of black air that originally existed in the air disappeared in an instant. The boundless darkness was like a huge mouth that stretched out from the abyss, swallowing Lu Ya from bottom to top. Lu Ya's eyes were dark. He tried to release his spiritual sense, but found that even his spiritual sense was limited to within 10 feet of himself. He held his breath, and even his heartbeat and blood flow were forced to stop in an instant. He slowly lowered his body like a stubborn stone, listening with his ears fully open while his spiritual sense was fully open. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths in the absolute darkness. No sound was made, whether it was Lu Ya or the existence that caused all this. It seemed to have turned into part of the darkness, quietly waiting for the prey to make a mistake. Lu Ya closed his eyes tightly, and his spiritual sense formed a circular perception range with a radius of 1 meter around him. Any existence that entered this range would be discovered by him at the first time. In his heart, a vague murderous intent firmly locked him, like a thorn in his back. The feeling was that as long as he made any movement, he would face a thunderbolt. As time passed, even though Liu Yat had made great progress in body training, he still could not stop the beating of his heart and the flow of blood for a long time. Seeing that he could no longer maintain the current state, Liu Yat sighed in his heart, and then the next moment, his body was like a long dormant volcano erupting. The hot blood and surging magic power boiled to the limit in an instant, and Liu Yat's body suddenly turned into a giant of nearly 3 meters in this process. At the moment when Liu Yat's body changed, a cold light that merged with the darkness shot towards Liu Yat's heart like a meteor chasing the moon. At this moment, this most ordinary stab, in Liu Yat's perception, was like a deadly poisonous snake, wantonly swaying its venom. If it were placed in the outside world, this stab would definitely be extremely dazzling, even overwhelming all the scenery around. At this moment, the poisonous sting was approaching his body, and the endless killing intent was surging wildly. In an instant, the Taoist robe on Liu Yat's waist was crushed into powder. The terrifying penetrating power instantly pierced through Liu Yat's innate spirit shield, and pierced through his body that was comparable to a magic weapon, and drilled a blood hole as big as a bowl on his waist. The blood hole was transparent from front to back, and through the blood hole, one could even see Liu Yat's organs beating constantly. It was also at the same time that this stab appeared. Liu Yat's 4 sturdy arms stretched forward, and his 5 fingers formed claws, grabbing the darkness in front of him. The terrifying power surging in his arms seemed to slightly distort the darkness in front of him and be held in his hands. It was not until this time that the blood hole on Liu Yat's waist exploded. If Liu Yat had not activated the Blood River Giant Body technique, this blood hole would have exploded at his heart. The threat of death made Liu Yat's killing intent boil to the limit, but his body did not even pause for a moment, and his forearms still firmly grasped the darkness in front of him. The time was too short for him to make any changes. He could only rely on his instincts that had been honed through thousands of trials and tribulations to display the power to call the wind and rain. Through the field formed by this power, Liu Yat firmly locked onto the existence that was attacking him and suppressed it within his field. Chapter 312, Towering Wonder. Crack, crack, the teeth-grinding sound of bones breaking rang out in the darkness in front of Liu Yat, and there was a faint groan of pain. Then came the violent force that almost made Liu Yat unable to control and tried to break free. Its strength was so strong that it even exceeded the scope of the golden elixir. Hearing this groan, Liu Yat stepped down with both feet, and the terrifying physical strength burst out without reservation. The huge purple gold elixir in the danshan in his body, which was as big as a star, rotated loudly, and the mana was continuously transported to Liu Yat's forearms. Blood spurted out like arrows from the blood hole that was transparent from front to back. The darkness around him gradually faded away at some point, and the source of the fading was right in front of Liu Yat. Between his 4 hands, a ball of darkness that was half a person's height and almost dripping was rolling and struggling wildly. After regaining his vision, Liu Yat looked at the darkness that was imprisoned by him but still struggling wildly, with a grin on his lips and a red light flashing in his eyes. "You like sneak attacks, don't you? Even if you are a nascent soul, you will be crushed by me today." The next moment, his whole body was burning with golden red flames, and the boundless murderous intent rolled up the golden red flames, rapidly spreading along Liu Yat's arms to the darkness in his clenched palms. His magic power, his soul, his body, all the power was poured into his palms without reservation, and the power like a tide showed his strength and terror at the moment. In the golden red flames, Liu Yat was like a 4-armed flaming giant, burning the darkness thoroughly with the endless fire. Liu Yat's eyes were wide open, and he shouted loudly. Wind. It seemed that there was an endless white wind emerging from the void, gathering in the small space in front of him. Rain, thunder, the shouts resounded throughout the fields, as if the real sound waves shook away the twisted and fluttering catkins in the air. In a short moment, the space in front of Liu Yat and the darkness imprisoned in the space were submerged by wind, rain, thunder and lightning. Golden red, white, dark, bright white, all kinds of colors intertwined and mixed, converging into power called destruction. Crack, roar, the sound of bones breaking increased in vain, accompanied by an increasingly painful roar. Blood flowed from the palms of Liu Yat's hands, but he still did not stop. The darkness in his palms began to shrink slowly, from half a person's height to the size of a basin. then gradually shrunk to the size of a human head, and finally gradually shrunk to the size of a fist. Until this time, the dense flames, wind, rain, and thunder and lightning were almost liquefied, and the darkness in them continued to evaporate. Finally, Luya clenched his four hands together suddenly, making a light puff sound. When he spread his palms again, the darkness in his palms had dissipated without a trace. From the beginning to the end, the sneak attacker only seized the opportunity and shot a fatal blow at Luya that was enough to kill the unyielding. Then, before he could use any other means, he disappeared in the terrifying magical power created by Luya's four hands. Not a trace was left. No, something was left. The blood hole on Luya's waist, the blood trickling from his palm, and the object suspended in front of him, like a black silver needle, might also be the existence of the sneak attacker. Luya looked at the black silver needle suspended in front of him. It was condensed with extremely condensed killing intent and terrifying penetrating power. This made Luya understand that this black silver needle was an extremely rare and strange object that condensed killing intent and penetrating time. Its killing intent was so strong and its penetration was so terrifying that even if a unyielding cultivator came here, it would be very likely to be seriously injured by that stab, or even die directly. Luya took out a jade box and put the black silver needle in it. After the jade box was closed, a forbidden light naturally emerged and sealed it inside. Afterwards, Luya recovered from the state of a small giant. After recovering, his body shook and he almost fell to the ground. The fight just now seemed simple, but it was actually extremely dangerous. It was originally unimaginable to imprison a being that could burst out the fighting power of the nascent soul, or even a nascent soul in the palm of your hand, not to mention that Luya killed it in the process. Therefore, in a short period of time, even if Luya had the powerful state of three flowers gathering at the top of the head, his consciousness, magic power and physical strength were still about to be exhausted. If the opponent persisted a little longer, the outcome would still be unknown. After swallowing several pills, Luya quickly left the place. The commotion just now was already quite big. If there were people nearby, they would most likely come over to investigate. And his current state could no longer support a conflict with others. Not long after Luya left, a rainbow light flying close to the ground quickly approached, but it stopped 100 feet away from where Luya was standing, revealing a thin old man among them. However, the aura emanating from his body was that of a perfect golden elixir. He stopped 100 feet away, looking at the place where Luya had stood before, feeling uncertain. The domain of the demon thorn has disappeared? That was a Daoyun soldier at the unyielding level. Could it be that a unyielding cultivator had the chance to pass through the space vortex and enter this human-demon battlefield ruins? Unfortunately, if this unyielding had come earlier to destroy the demon thorn, my poor disciple would not have died here. But now it can be regarded as indirect revenge for you, my silly disciple. The thin old man showed sadness in his eyes, and then turned around and left resolutely. In a newly excavated underground cave, Luya was sitting cross-legged in meditation. The blood hole on his waist had stopped bleeding, and it was quickly repaired under the recovery ability of the Chiang immortal body. It was estimated that it would be restored to its original state in another hour. In contrast, his mana recovery was much faster. After all, with the state of the three flowers gathering at the top of the head, the spiritual energy of the world was madly absorbed and purified, and then converted into Luya's own mana. Relatively speaking, the recovery of the consumed spiritual power is much slower, but this cannot be rushed. The recovery of spiritual power requires time to nourish. While waiting for the wound to heal, Luya took out a jade box, which contained the Daoyun's strange object that he had just obtained in the shape of a black silver needle. Slowly removing the seal on the jade box, Luya opened the jade box, and a black silver needle lay quietly in the center of the jade box. It is hard to imagine that this silver needle, which is only 2 fingers long and as thin as a hair, can actually burst out with a terrifying power to kill the unyielding. Luya stretched out his hand to grab the silver needle. The moment he touched the silver needle, a terrifying killing intent hit his soul, and then was blocked by the 3-color lotus slowly rotating above his soul. Luya paused, then looked at the silver needle in his hand, and a touch of joy appeared in his eyes. This Daoyun strange object not only contains 2 different Daoyuns, but its strength is also much higher than that of ordinary Daoyuns. Moreover, this Daoyun is killing intent and penetration, which is very suitable for most cultivators. Dear friends, please remember to vote. Chapter 313 Absorbing the Taorim Wonder. For Luya, This Daoyun's strange object is a perfect match for his finger of extermination. The finger of extermination is based on the golden sword energy, and it finally evolved successfully in hundreds of thousands of killings. Its killing power is so strong that it can penetrate space and crush defenses at the beginning. After such a long time, the power of the finger of extermination is constantly increasing due to its characteristics. The killing power of a single unit can be said to be the strongest among all Liu Ya's means. And now, the killing intent and penetrating Daoyun contained in this Daoyun's strange object allow Liu Ya to see the possibility of further strengthening the finger of extermination and reaching the level of killing power that breaks through the giant boundary. Just to obtain such a Daoyun's strange object, Liu Ya's trip is worthwhile. Without hesitation, Liu Ya placed a black silver needle in his palm, and his consciousness slowly wrapped around the needle body. At the moment of contact, a strong penetrating killing intent went straight to Liu Ya's soul. Liu Ya protected his soul with a three-color lotus, and in the process began to carefully comprehend the killing intent and penetrating Daoyun. Several days passed in the dark underground cave. One day, in the underground cave, Liu Ya's eyes, which had been closed for a long time, suddenly opened. A dark red killing intent that seemed to be real shot out from his eyes and hit the soil in front of him. Then Liu Ya closed his eyes again, and after a careful understanding, he slowly opened his eyes. The killing intent in his eyes had dissipated. And in his palm, the black silver needle had disappeared. This practice has saved me decades of hard work. The Daoyun's strange object is really very powerful. Liu Ya rubbed his fingers unconsciously, and the next moment a deep red finger force condensed from his fingertips. As his mind moved, the red light on his fingertips disappeared in an instant, and it seemed that an inexplicable rule was triggered in the void. The finger force followed this wave, and when it appeared again, it was about 30 feet deep underground, and silently wiped out a second-level earth dragon in the soil. Both the lethality and penetration have been greatly improved. It's finally effective. Liu Ya's mouth curled up slightly, and he was very satisfied with the lethality of the life-destroying finger. This attack strength is not just an ordinary Taoist attack. The void fluctuations just triggered are very similar to the battle between unyielding cultivators that Liu Ya saw in the Yinka Mountains. In other words, the attack of the life-destroying finger has now entered the level of unyielding. Even unyielding cultivators have to be very cautious when facing his life-destroying finger. However, the only drawback is that the consumption of the life-destroying finger has increased a lot. It's worth it that I suffered such a serious injury to take you down, Liu Ya said hey, and he felt a little more confident in his heart. As his cultivation level increases day by day, the level of people or things he comes into contact with is also rising synchronously. Before this, Liu Ya already felt a little powerless, and this feeling undoubtedly revealed a fact: he was not strong enough. Now, with the breakthrough of the life-destroying finger, Liu Ya's feeling of powerlessness has slightly weakened. At least at this stage. It is enough to deal with most situations. In other words, Liu Ya, now has the capital to fight desperately. Before, even if he tried his best, he might hurt a unyielding cultivator, but it was almost impossible to kill him. But now, if Liu Ya, is determined to fight desperately, even if a unyielding cultivator is in front of him, he can fight with him, and there is a great possibility that he will fight to death. And a unyielding cultivator, who has a lifespan of 2,000 years, will really fight desperately with a giant cultivator like Liu Ya? The answer is unknown. After a few days, Liu Ya's injuries on his body, including the power of his soul, have recovered. Liu Ya's heart moved, and he went to the top of the ground. After a few breaths, Liu Ya returned to the ground again. He waved his hand, and several pale yellow streamer flags on the ground under his feet disappeared into his sleeves like swallows returning to their nests, and were collected into his storage ring one by one. This is a set of concealment formations. Liu Ya's cultivation has not been disturbed these days, mostly due to it. After putting away the formation flag, Liu Ya paused, because in his field of vision, there was a team of 12 cultivators looking in his direction. The aura of the leading cultivator had reached the level of the late Jinden stage. With 3 cultivators of different levels in the early and middle Jinden stages, and 8 cultivators in the late foundation building stage, the strength of this team of cultivators was enough to destroy an ordinary sect. After Liu Ya came out from underground, the other party had already discovered Liu Ya. After seeing that Liu Ya was just a cultivator in the early Jinden stage, several Jinden looked at each other and saw the greed in each other's eyes. Liu Ya had just refined a Taoist rhyme object related to murderous intent, so he was extremely sensitive to murderous intent. He already knew in his heart that the other party might have the intention of killing people and stealing treasures. Liu Ya glanced at their clothes and immediately realized that this might be the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce, one of the three major forces in Wangcheng. However, it was just a team of mixed giant and foundation-building cultivators, which posed no threat to Liu Ya at the moment. Therefore, Liu Ya only smiled faintly, bowed in the direction of the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce team, and said faintly, "I am honored to meet you fellow Taoists. I have something important to do, so I will say goodbye to you." A strange look flashed in the eyes of the late giant and cultivator who led the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce team, and then he stepped forward and was about to say something. Liu Ya seemed to see through his thoughts, and just stood there, looking at him with a smile. It seemed like an ordinary look, but in fact Liu Ya had already displayed the magical power of the life-destroying finger. Infinite murderous intent accompanied his eyes, like two sharp swords piercing directly into the eyes of the opposite giant and cultivator. The late giant and cultivator who led the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce felt a chill running from his feet through his spine to his forehead when he met Liu Ya's gaze that seemed to contain endless murderous intent. He immediately broke out in a layer of fine cold sweat. The words he had prepared were stuck in his throat. He dared not breathe anymore and could only make meaningless clucks. At this moment, he seemed to be facing not a cultivator of the early giant period, but a terrifying butcher who slaughtered all living things and stood in a sea of blood and corpses. He subconsciously wanted to turn around and run away, but found that his body was cold and completely out of his control. Liu Ya retracted his gaze, turned around with a faint smile on his face, and left. Seeing that Liu Ya was about to leave, the three giant and cultivators behind him couldn't help it, but due to the leader's usual majesty, they still didn't move, and just watched Liu Ya slowly leave. Until they could no longer see Liu Ya's figure, one of them couldn't help but step forward and ask the late giant and cultivator who led the group. Chapter 314, Shocking Sword Intent. After a brief inquiry, the leading giant and monk still did not respond, and even the footsteps that were suspended in mid-air did not fall. The giant's Henrin who came forward to inquire immediately found that something was wrong, and hurriedly walked to the leading giant and monk, but the scene he saw frightened him all over. He saw that the leader of his own giant and late-stage cultivation was stiff and pale at this moment, his eyes bulged, and his lips kept moving, as if he was cast under a spell of immobilization and could not move. He called him twice again, and seeing that he did not respond at all, he could not help but reach out and gently pat his shoulder. After a pat with a faint magical power, the leading giant and monk was stimulated by the external magical power and finally broke free from the cold murderous intent in his mind. As soon as he broke free, a lot of sweat instantly pumped out of his body. In just a few breaths, the whole person was like being fished out of water. His lips trembled, and he looked at the direction where Liu Ya left, and said with a look of horror, "Hurry, hurry up, don't stop, don't touch that senior." The rest of the people heard this, although they were a little confused, but they still obeyed his orders, and the group quickly left in the opposite direction of Liu Ya. It was not until they walked a distance that the leading giant and cultivator's face looked a little better. Seeing this, the giant and cultivator next to him could no longer bear it, and asked again, "Senior Han, we see that the other party is just a cultivator in the early stage of giant. Why?" The leading giant and cultivator glanced at him, and then said with lingering fear, "He is definitely not a giant and cultivator. The look just now gave me pressure, almost the same feeling as the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce." "Vice president?" The rest of the people immediately let out incredible exclamations. You should know that their three-region Chamber of Commerce has a total of 3 vice presidents, and any vice president is a unyielding cultivator, with a terrifying cultivation base. Now, their leader actually said that the mysterious man who looked like an early giant might be the same as the vice president. Thinking of this, everyone's face turned pale. Just now, they actually wanted to kill a person who was comparable to unyielding to rob treasures. They simply didn't know how to live or die. Silently, everyone's speed increased by 3 points. The leading monk had a complicated look in his eyes and corrected, "No, the murderous intent in his eyes is even greater than the pressure from the vice president. His cultivation may not only be at the level of the early unyielding." As soon as he finished speaking, he only felt that the speed of the surrounding scene retreating backwards was in vain, and he found that his men wanted to use their breasts to run towards the distance. He immediately understood what they were thinking, but he also felt relieved. He would stay as far away from the other party as possible. No, he also had to inform the other people who entered the ruins with him. Thinking of this, he took out a disc-like magic weapon from his arms, and his mind moved slightly, recording everything he had encountered with the Liu Yang, and even gave a detailed description of Liu Yang's figure and appearance. After doing all this, he breathed a sigh of relief, but he didn't feel relaxed at all. He just felt that this trip to the ruins was like a thick veil, and the road ahead was invisible and untouchable. This time, there may be changes. Liu Yang met with the people of the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce and continued to walk in the ruins full of gray and black flying catkins. But this time, his actions were more cautious. Before, he was attacked by the Daoian soldier without knowing it. Although he was lucky enough to fight and kill him, this could not happen again. At the same time, this also made Liu Yang more deeply aware that the dangers of this ruins of the human-demon battlefield were far beyond his imagination. Slowly moving forward, Liu Yang encountered more and more human monks, and even a lot of monsters, but most of them were already corpses, and the few who were still alive also avoided them and did not meet Liu Yang. Liu Yang carefully avoided places with corpses. According to experience, there must be Daoian objects in these places, but he didn't know how powerful these Daoian objects were. I wanted to give it a try, but I was afraid of encountering a Daoyun soldier at the unyielding level. As Liu Yang walked slowly forward, he sensed that a sharp and boundless sword intent that almost pierced the sky appeared from a very far distance. He looked up and seemed to see a sword that was more than 10,000 feet high, stretching between heaven and earth, wantonly venting its terrifying sword intent. At the same time as seeing this sword intent, the figure of the slightly shy genius sword cultivator Zhang Daoying naturally emerged in Liu Yang's mind. Its fellow Taoist Zhang. Liu Yang's eyes were filled with amazement. Such a terrifying sword intent. Is it really possible for a cultivator in the early stage of Jinden to display it? I don't know who or what can make Zhang Daoying use such a terrifying sword intent. At this time, it was not just Liu Yang. With Zhang Daoying's position as the center, all the cultivators within 100 miles felt it and looked up at the direction of the virtual shadow of the sword in the sky. Could this terrifying sword intent have the appearance of peerless Dao Rhyme? Who is this person with the spirit to slash the heavens and kill the earth? Could it be that a unyielding cultivator has entered this ruins? Don't be defeated. If you encounter a sword cultivator of unknown strength during this trip to the ruins, you should retreat and not compete with him. It's better to do nothing, but you must not make any mistakes. After sensing the sword intent, a large number of cultivators secretly speculated in their hearts. Many cultivators even began to take the initiative to stay away from the place where the sword intent broke out and headed towards other directions of the ruins. Of course, there were also many people who felt that they were strong and began to move towards the place where the sword intent was. Among them, there were many strong people with excited eyes, and of course Liu Yang was among them. The shocking sword intent only lasted for less than 5 breaths before it disappeared without a trace, but this time was enough. Liu Yang identified the direction and hurried there. Along the way, he also saw many cultivators like him, moving quickly towards the direction where the sword intent occurred. Many monks saw Liu Yang and showed obvious vigilance and hostility. They had already regarded Liu Yang as a competitor of the suspected peerless Dao Yun. Soon, Liu Yang arrived at a place where the sword intent appeared. In the center of a gray and black flying catkin, chaotic sword marks were smeared on the black ground. The piercing sword intent permeated from the sword marks, making every monk who came tremble in their hearts. Even the greed in their eyes dissipated a lot, and it seemed a little clearer. And at the focus of all the monks' eyes, a man in white was standing in the center of the sword mark. His face was handsome with a hint of shyness, black hair draped over his shoulders, sword eyebrows into his temples, red lips and white teeth. He held a 3-foot-long sword that exuded a misty breath, and wore a white dress. He seemed like a sword immortal who didn't care about worldly affairs, standing proudly in the world. It was Zhang Daoying. Chapter 315, People's Hearts Are Unsettled. Looking at Zhang Daoying, who seemed like a sword immortal, everyone's eyes were filled with solemnity and deep fear, but when their eyes moved to the object in his hand that emitted strong Dao Rhyme fluctuations, everyone's eyes were filled with lingering greed and desire. Liu Yang's eyes were also attracted by the object in Zhang Daoying's hand. It was a blade wheel like a full moon. A touch of moonlight-like brilliance flowed on the cold and watery wheel blade. On the entire blade wheel, a strong and unconcealable Dao Rhyme fluctuation spread to the surroundings. Just standing at such a far distance, Liu Yang could feel the sharp breath contained in it. After watching for a long time, he even had a faint illusion that the whole person was split in two. Peerless Dao Rhyme, someone exclaimed, with incredible and undisguised malice in his tone. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere in the crowd standing outside the sword mark suddenly rose, and heavy gasps could not be suppressed from their mouths. Peerless Dao Yun, it is said that it can help cultivators comprehend the realm of unyielding, condense their own domain, and help them achieve unyielding. It is a rare and wonderful thing. It can even provide sufficient help when cultivators step into the realm of transformation. And this is just one use of Peerless Dao Yun. If the giant cultivator present can seize the Peerless Dao Yun in front of this young sword cultivator, it means that a future unyielding great cultivator is about to be born. With such a valuable treasure in front of them, the people outside Jianhong are greedy. Some people can't help but take out their own magic weapons. While looking at Zhang Daoying greedily, they are also carefully on guard against the people around them. However, due to the shocking sword intent before, no one is willing to step forward, but just stand still and don't move. After a while, a middle-aged cultivator in a green robe and a square scarf stepped out. He had a professional smile on his face, which made people think of the shopkeeper of a tea house and a wine shop. But his unconcealed aura of giant perfection made others dare not underestimate him at all. Not far from Lu Yat, someone obviously recognized the middle-aged cultivator and couldn't help but whispered, "Li Qiang, the #1 external manager of the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce. This old fox is not a simple character. If you are not careful, you may be sold and have to help him count money." Hearing this, Lu Yu couldn't help but look at the middle-aged cultivator Li Qiang dressed like a scholar. Li Qiang walked out of the crowd and saw Zhang Daoying looking at him. Then he bowed meticulously and said, "I am Li Qiang, the manager of the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce. I am honored to meet this Taoist friend. Your sword will is amazing. I really admire you." Just when Lu Yu was worried about how this sword cultivator who was extremely shy and blushed easily should respond, the performance of the young sword cultivator in the next moment made Lu Yu look strange. Facing Li Qiang's greeting, Zhang Daoying didn't even raise his eyelids, and still focused all his attention on the blade wheel in front of him, as if Li Qiang, who was just full of smiles, was heir. What a cold-blooded and heartless swordsman. Zhang Daoying's performance made many cultivators secretly discuss in their hearts. Li Qiang was rejected, but his expression was normal. Without any discomfort at all. He took 2 more steps forward, and when he was about to take the 3rd step, a sword energy suddenly appeared in front of his feet, sank into the ground in front of his feet, and stirred up a handful of black ash dust. So Li Qiang stopped and said with a smile again, "My fellow Taoist, my Three Realms Chamber of Commerce has been in business for 1,000 years, and its reputation has always been good. However, this Peerless Dao rhyme is too eye-catching and can easily bring disaster. I know that your cultivation is amazing and your talent is terrifying, but no matter how terrifying your talent and potential are, you cannot cope with the current situation. So how about handing this Dao rhyme over to my Three Realms Chamber of Commerce, and when we return, we will directly hold an auction, and all the proceeds will belong to you, Taoist." Ha ha ha, bah. The #1 external shopkeeper of the Three Realms Chamber of Commerce actually did not hesitate to use words to deceive a young man. "What's the matter? Do you think everyone here is deaf and blind? Or do you think the sword cultivator you are facing is someone who can be fooled by your sweet words in a few words?" A rough voice sounded from the crowd, and then a cultivator with the same golden elixir perfection aura walked out of the crowd, not hiding his contempt for Li Qiang, the external shopkeeper of the Three Realms Chamber of Commerce. I was wondering who it was. It turned out to be Zheng Chuanfu, the 1,000-year-old turtle of the Immovable Alliance. "You turtle, why don't you just stay in your shell and stick yourself out to join in the fun?" Li Qiang sneered and retaliated without any hesitation. Obviously, there must be some unknown contradiction between the two, otherwise they would not have yelled at each other in front of everyone. Besides, my Three Domains Chamber of Commerce has a good reputation and credibility. It's you who don't form the Unmoved Alliance, but I often hear that some of your subordinates don't follow the rules and often harm customers. You are making up stories and slandering me, Zheng Chuanfu immediately retorted, his whole body full of magical powers, and he said excitedly, "The Unmoved Alliance has always been based on integrity." Well, you are really from the Chamber of Commerce. You are really good at smearing and biting back." After speaking, he looked at Zhang Daoying, "My fellow Taoist, you have also seen the behavior of the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce. This peerless Taoist rhyme must not be placed in the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce. Why don't you consider my Unmoved Alliance? If you are willing, in this relic, Everyone in the Unmoved Alliance will protect you as the first priority. Anyone who makes things difficult for you is an enemy of our Unmoved Alliance. Brothers, don't you agree? Yes. 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 The people of the Unmoved Alliance behind Zheng Chuanfu roared with full energy. Zheng Chuanfu turned around, looked at Zhang Daoying with a smug look, and asked confidently, "What do you think?" Little did he know that while Zheng Chuanfu and Li Qiang were arguing, the eyes of the others were looking at them more and more strangely. I'm telling you, the two old men are almost hitting everyone in the face with their calculations. What's the matter? Do you think that only you two are the only ones in this place, and no one else is qualified to have a share? A mocking voice rang out in the crowd without mercy. Suddenly, the crowd sneered again and again. Humph, my Three Domains Chamber of Commerce is doing business. Do you think that Chunqiu Pavilion also wants to interfere? Li Qiang turned his head and looked in the direction of the mocking voice and said. Seeing that the smell of gunpowder in the air was getting stronger and stronger, and it was so strong that it was almost ignited, a cry of surprise rang out. Not good. This person is in the initial stage of refining this peerless Dao rhyme. If he succeeds, this peerless Dao rhyme will be sealed in the storage ring, and then all our efforts will be in vain. As soon as the words fell, Li Qiang, Zheng Chuanfu, and the others all stared at Zhang Daoying with a hint of disbelief in their eyes. Chapter 316 The Killing Begins. This is the peerless Dao rhyme. If you want to refine the seal, it will definitely not be finished in a short time. Therefore, they talked loudly here, because they calculated that the other party had no way to deal with this peerless Dao rhyme. As long as they held it in their palms before refining, it would be theirs. As for promises and reputation, in the face of terrifying interests, they are just a piece of dough that can be kneaded by anyone. Who knows that this cold swordsman actually did not say a word, but actually started to refine the peerless Dao rhyme in full view of the public, which is simply audacious. Those who were still watching, still talking, and preparing to coerce and induce, now can't wait. One by one, fierce and murderous eyes were revealed. The Dao arts that were ready to go were ready to be released at any time under the urging of magic power. The fluctuations of various magic weapons and instruments were reflected in this area. Even facing the murderous intentions of more than 30 giant cultivators and hundreds of foundation-building cultivators, Zhang Daoying, who stood in the center of everyone's attention, remained unmoved. He just silently refined the full moon-like blade wheel, as if everything happening around him had nothing to do with him. Go ahead, kill him. The peerless Daoying will be the one with virtue, someone shouted, and it was like a fuse, completely igniting the greed and murderous intentions in the hearts of everyone here. More than a dozen magic weapons turned into streams of light, and more than 20 third-level spells with piercing screams attacked Zhang Daoying's position. Among them, there were several attacks, which were directed at Li Qiang and others standing in the front of the crowd. Then came the attacks launched by the densely packed foundation-building cultivators. The attack was about to come, but Zhang Daoying still did not move at all. Everyone showed a touch of joy in their eyes. As long as this man was killed, the peerless Daoying would still be the peerless Daoying, and then it would be time for everyone to rely on their own abilities. At the moment when the attack was about to hide him, a cocky light suddenly shone from Zhang Daoying's body. This cocky light, as thin as a cicada's wing, showed an incredible and amazing defense. The terrifying attack that was enough to kill any giant and cultivator was actually blocked by the cocky light, without even a slight impact on Zhang Daoying who was protecting it. Sure enough, fellow Taoist Su is here too. The moment Lu Ya saw the cocky light, he knew that Su Bin must have arrived, but there were so many people and eyes, and his nature was hidden in the dark. Seeing that Zhang Daoying was fine, Lu Ya no longer hesitated, closed his eyes slightly, and when he opened them again, he was already filled with murderous intent that was about to overflow. Without hesitation or pause, the scarlet light quietly bloomed from his fingertips, and the next moment, a finger of extermination shot out from his fingertips. The moment Lu Ya made a move, the terrifying murderous intent turned into a huge wave and swept across everyone present. The people who were participating in the siege felt a strong sense of uneasiness in their hearts, as if they were firmly locked by the terrifying existence at the top of the food chain. Who is it, there? When someone reacted and saw the scarlet on Lu Ya's fingertips, they finally couldn't help but shout loudly in shock. In the eyes of everyone, the moment the red light left Lu Ya's fingertips, it disappeared in the perception of the divine consciousness with a special wave. The feeling was like penetrating space. The next moment, A scarlet finger force appeared directly from less than a foot away from Li Kuang's temple and shot towards his head. Such a sudden scene and the shadow of death that was so strong that it overwhelmed him almost frightened Li Kuang's liver and gallbladder. The life-saving thing that had been held in his hand was crushed by him in an instant. In a flash, a starlight lit up from his brow. Then the scarlet finger force easily broke through the defenses set up by Li Kuang, directly collided with the starlight, and then disappeared at the same time. Seeing this scene, Li Kuang didn't feel at ease at all, but was shrouded by a greater shadow of death. You know, his life-saving item is a treasure that could withstand a blow from a unyielding cultivator, and could withstand at least dozens of attacks from a giant cultivator. But just a few breaths ago, his life-saving item was completely dissipated by a finger force attack. The meaning of this is the fundamental reason why Li Kuang felt like he was falling into an ice cave. Unyielding Great Monk. As soon as this thought came to his mind, Li Kuang felt as if he had been electrified. He suddenly remembered that not long ago, someone in his team seemed to have informed him of such a mysterious existence. He saw Lu Ya's appearance with a corner of his eye, and it immediately overlapped with the description of the mysterious existence in his mind. There was no difference between the two. At the same time, he also saw the scarlet light on the other party's fingertips again. "Senior, spare me." Li Kuang's begging for mercy stopped abruptly. This time, the scarlet finger force appeared directly on his scalp and shot directly into his head in the next moment. An extremely powerful giant and perfection cultivator died so suddenly, and he couldn't even escape. Two life-killing fingers killed a giant and perfect cultivator. Such a result made Lu Ya very satisfied. The life thread that returned was a little thicker, which made Lu Ya even happier. The next moment, Scarlet Finger Force exploded at Lu Ya's fingertips and began to shoot at all enemies in the entire battlefield. Ha ha ha, Brother Dao really came, it's really timely. As Lu Ya was slaughtering, a yellowish-brown light scattered from the land in front of Zhang Daoying. When the light disappeared, Su Bin's figure finally appeared in front of Lu Ya. Facing Su Bin's words, Lu Ya just nodded slightly, but his hands did not slow down at all. After Li Kuang's death, the cultivators of the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce who were present saw Lu Ya's image and immediately understood what kind of terrifying existence they had encountered. Run. It's a unyielding great monk, go quickly, as many as you can go, quickly. Frightened voices broke out from the mouths of all the people in the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce who knew about it. Under the threat of death, the swallowed rationality finally recovered again. The people from the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce wished they had 2 more legs and ran desperately. However, no matter how fast they were, how could they be faster than Lu Ya's finger of death that penetrated through space? Lu Ya no longer paid attention to consumption. Relying on the ability of 3 flowers gathering at the top of the head to quickly restore mana in a short period of time, he continuously shot out 1 finger of death after another. With each finger, 1 person would fall down. Under the frequency of terrifying attacks of several shots in one breath, the monks participating in the siege fell down in groups like wheat being cut. Before the second wave of collective attacks was formed, the hundreds of practitioners participating in the attack had been killed or injured by nearly half, and this number was still rising rapidly. Looking at Lu Ya's amazing efficiency that seemed like a massacre, both Su Bin and Zhang Daoying had a flash of astonishment in their eyes. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 317 Unwilling. One after another, great figures who could have founded their own sects in the outside world were pierced by the Scarlet Finger, and their long lifespans were forcibly ended. Although Lu Ya's killing efficiency of the Finger of Extermination was extremely high, who of the opponents he faced did not go through hardships and obstacles to achieve his current achievements? In the first few breaths, after a brief panic, the people present, led by several people, launched a desperate attack on Lu Ya. It must be said that even if some people were shouting Nascent Soul Great Monk frantically, there were still people who could go against the current and attack Lu Ya, although the number of these people was not large. Facing the attacks of these people, Lu Ya's eyes did not fluctuate at all. If everyone present could join forces and attack him at the first time, then even if he was a genuine Nascent Soul monk, he would have to retreat. But now, there are only 7 or 8 giant monks plus dozens of foundation-building monks, which is not a concern at all. Several magic weapons came with a piercing whistle, and the Taoist magic flew wildly in the sky, but they were eclipsed by a layer of earthy yellow protective aura. Su Bin smiled, his face full of pride. "How can I let my brother take all the glory?" he said jokingly, but if you ignore his pale face and the faint blood color between his lips and teeth, It is quite convincing. Obviously, when he helped Zhang Daoying resist the joint attack of all the cultivators before, he was only at the initial stage of giant cultivation, and the price he paid was definitely not small. Now he helped Liu resist another round of attacks. For Su Bin, he has done the ultimate that a cultivator at the initial stage of giant can do. Basically, no one at the same level can do better than him in this situation. After such a resistance, Liu Ya clearly saw that Su Bin was exhausted. So the next moment, a strong wind pressure emerged from his body, and his body suddenly expanded to about 3 meters. A heavy sword with a hideous and exaggerated shape and a length of 2.5 meters appeared in Liu Ya's hand. It was Liu Ya's life-defining magical weapon, Jianshu Dao. Liu Ya swung the long sword in his hand, and the whimpering sound of breaking the wind stimulated the surrounding monks' scalps to numb. The next moment, Liu Ya's huge figure seemed to be wrapped up in a hurricane, turning into thunder, and he did not dodge or avoid, but took the initiative to crash into the monks who were rushing forward. Facing Liu Ya, who was crushing like a Tyrannosaurus, the monks who had finally mustered up their courage felt like they were falling into an ice cave, and they all woke up from the state of blood boiling. But it was too late now. In less than 2 breaths, Liu Ya had already approached everyone, and he could even clearly see the fear and regret in everyone's eyes. He swung his muscular arm vigorously, and the Jianshu Dao, which was already 2.5 meters long, burst out a golden sword several feet long. Its momentum was fierce, and it even carried some secrets of time and time. Just facing this sword light, one could feel that his life would be turned into ashes under this sword, and he would die from then on. The giant Shao knife was originally made of the precious casting treasure of Xianjiaxing, and it was already extremely sharp. At this moment, the meaning of the passage of time contained in the blade made it even more terrifying and domineering. Swish! The golden knife energy several feet long and the 2-meter-long blade swept across, covering the fan-shaped area several feet in front of Liu Ya. When the first Giant's Henren used his own defensive aura to fight against Liu Ya's knife energy, trying to block Liu Ya's attack. But he found that his own defense was easily split into 2 in front of the knife energy, and he could not form any resistance to the golden knife energy. Puff! A knife swept across, and the dozen people who rushed forward were all cut in half. Before the bodies fell to the ground, they were completely annihilated by the murderous intent contained in the knife energy. After the knife, there was no one to resist in front of Liu Ya. Liu Ya raised his head and looked at the people who were running away. He exerted force again and chased after them. Looking at Liu Ya's figure that looked like a god or demon, Su Bin couldn't help but mutter to himself, "Didn't we agree to become Xianjiao together? Why did the strength you two showed pull me so far away?" Just a moment later, the monks who had originally gathered here fled or died. Except for Su Bin and Zhang Daoying, no one else could stand here. Liu Ya walked slowly from a distance, wearing a spotless black Taoist robe, and stepped on the broken limbs and arms all over the ground and came to the two. "Brother Wang, good tricks." Su Bin saw Liu Ya walking slowly at this moment, and his heart was inexplicably nervous, but he was not an ordinary person after all. He recovered as usual in just a moment and said with a bow, No, a few minor skills, just a little knowledge." Liu Ya smiled and waved his hand, without any complacency in his tone. "A few minor skills? A little knowledge?" Su Bin heard Liu Ya's words, gritted his teeth, and couldn't help but harden. Fists harden. He clenched his fist, his eyes searching Liu Ya's face, and then put his hand down heavily. "I still have to take into account friendship, and I definitely didn't give up just because I couldn't beat him," he comforted himself in this way. "If this level is considered to be a little knowledge, then what are we who can't reach your level? Waste." Su Bin looked at Liu Ya with a complicated expression. Liu Ya was a little confused by his gaze, and felt that the atmosphere was really a little weird, so he changed the subject and looked at Zhang Daoying and said, "I don't know how long it will take for Dao Zhang to refine this peerless Dao rhyme. Brother Su, why don't you and I take turns to protect him until Dao Zhang wakes up?" Su Bin nodded and said, "Of course there is no problem." Liu Ya nodded, and then sat cross-legged 10 feet away from Zhang Daoying, and began to close his eyes and regulate his breathing. Although he had just gone through a massacre, his mana consumption was not much. With the state of the 3 flowers gathering at the top of the head, Liu Ya's mana can be said to be endless. However, it is easy to restore mana, but it is much slower to restore consciousness, which is one of the important reasons why Liu chose to regulate his breathing. Just as Liu Ya and Su Bin were protecting Zhang Daoying, The monk who had escaped by chance finally stopped his frightened steps. Looking behind him, he found that the evil spirit did not chase him. An elder of the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce at the giant level finally breathed a sigh of relief, and the heavy stone on his heart disappeared temporarily. But the next moment, his face was full of anger, and he punched the ancient tree beside him. The unyielding cultivator is bullying my Three Domains Chamber of Commerce because there is no one? If any of the 3 vice presidents of my Three Domains Chamber of Commerce is here, you, a mere unyielding cultivator, can't make any waves. After venting his fear, his expression was a little better. Seeing this, the subordinates on the side asked with confusion and unwillingness, Elder, how should we deal with it next? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318, Above the God. How should we deal with it? The horrifying scene of Lu Ya's killing flashed through the eyes of the giant and elder, and he thought of the peerless Dao Yun in Zhang Daoying's hand. He was unwilling to give up either of them, or unwilling to give them up. The Three Domains Chamber of Commerce had not suffered such heavy losses for many years, and these losses were all caused by one person, which made the elder of the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce suspect that there was a competitor deliberately targeting them. Moreover, he saw the appearance of a peerless Dao Yun with his own eyes. If this news was released to the outside world, I don't know how many cultivators trapped in the Jiandan or Yuanying realm would rush here frantically, just to obtain the peerless Dao Yun, and use it as a medium to seek an opportunity for a breakthrough. If their Three Domains Chamber of Commerce obtained this peerless Dao Yun, it is possible that their president would be able to make a further step with this item, and then they would naturally follow suit. After thinking for a while, the giant and elder finally made up his mind and said, this ruins is no longer suitable as a trial site. The danger is far beyond the expectation. Therefore, I decide that all the people from the 3-region Chamber of Commerce will immediately leave the ruins and take all the valuables back to the Chamber of Commerce. After the order was issued, the Chamber of Commerce elites present breathed a sigh of relief. They were afraid that their own shopkeepers would ask them to continue to fight hard. Now that there is no such worry, they are naturally much more relieved. After making the decision, the giant and elder flew quickly towards the exit of the ruins. He must report this matter to the mysterious president before everyone else. When the president receives the news, he will definitely not be able to hold back his curiosity. Driven by powerful interests, even the president who has reached the middle stage of the nascent soul, most people will go there lightly. For him, being able to enter the eyes of the high-ranking president with this is already the biggest gain. In comparison, the monks who died in the ruins are no longer that important. As for revenge, that is simply like an old man eating arsenic. He really wants to die. After Lu Ya and the other person took turns, the full moon blade wheel that was originally suspended in front of Zhang Daoying suddenly became introverted and disappeared in front of Zhang Daoying. Oh, it seems that it has been refined. Seeing this, Su Bin's face showed a hint of joy. He was really tired after waiting here for an hour. Hearing the movement, Lu Yang also opened his eyes, stood up, and came in front of Zhang Daoying. The next moment, Zhang Daoying's tightly closed eyes slowly opened. When he saw the two people in front of him clearly, his eyes showed obvious joy. Although he was refining the Dao rhyme before and had no time to care about other things, it did not mean that he knew nothing about what happened in the outside world. On the contrary, his consciousness clearly fed back what happened in the outside world to his mind. Zhang Daoying was planning to give up refining and join forces with Lu Ya to fight the enemy. However, if the refining process was terminated, this peerless Dao rhyme would disappear into the void. However, when he saw Lu Ya's killing spree and Su Bin's defense, he calmed down and continued to refine this hard-won peerless Dao rhyme. This level of treasure is extremely rare, even if he is of noble status and his own sex inheritance is one of the best in the world of cultivation. Even their sex internal treasure house, which is said to be all-encompassing, definitely does not have such a rare item as peerless Dao rhyme to exchange. Zhang Daoying, thank you, Brother Wang and Brother Su. Zhang Daoying bowed his hands very solemnly to thank him. Lu Ya waved his hand, not caring at all. Su Bin was originally a lively person, and he was not interested in his friend's behavior. He just asked curiously, how is that blade wheel-shaped Dao Yun strange object? Tell us about it, Zhang Daoying saw that Lu Yan also showed obvious interest, and he had no intention of hiding it, so he nodded and said, "This blade wield Daoyun should be a magic weapon left by a great supernatural cultivator above the level of transformation, above the level of transformation." Lu Yan's heart was shocked. There are many levels for cultivators to practice. Every time they pass a level, they become much stronger than before. After the cultivators form the elixir, they begin to nourish the golden elixir in their bodies, hoping to nourish the elixir and transform it into a spirit, so that the self-true spirit is born in the golden elixir, and the true spirit and the soul are combined until the elixir is broken and the infant is born, and the energy is released to become a great cultivator of the nascent soul. After the nascent soul, it is the path to pursue the transformation of the God. The nascent soul begins to transform into the primordial spirit. When the nascent soul is completely transformed into the primordial spirit, it can be called a cultivator of the transformation of the God. The lifespan of a cultivator at the stage of transformation of spirits can exceed 4,000 years. They can perfectly master their own fields, and with the body of the primordial spirit, they can comprehend the truth of heaven and earth. A cultivator at this stage has the qualification to initially set foot in the great way of the laws of heaven and earth. The cultivators at the stage of transformation of spirits compete not only with the strength of magic weapons and Taoist arts, but also with the application of the laws of heaven and earth. Therefore, in the battles between cultivators at the stage of transformation of spirits, their power is multiplied by the movement of hands and feet, and it is not uncommon to move mountains and fill the sea at will. Above the stage of transformation of spirits is the stage of refining emptiness. The stage of refining emptiness is the stage of the primordial spirit, which is the transformation of the primordial spirit into a phantom, so it is called the stage of refining emptiness. The greatest function of the stage of refining emptiness is to cultivate an external incarnation. For a cultivator, an external incarnation is like having an extra life. As long as the external incarnation and the original body do not perish at the same time, the cultivators at this stage will not die completely, so the ability of cultivators at the stage of refining emptiness to save their lives is extremely strong. Moreover, when fighting against an enemy, the incarnation outside the body merges with the main body, and the mana and consciousness of the body can be multiplied, greatly improving the combat power. However, even such a tyrannical existence still died in the battle between humans and demons, and even the magic weapon he used was washed away by the long river of time, becoming a strange object that only carries the rhyme of Tao but has no actual power. "That's really amazing," Su Bin exclaimed exaggeratedly, and then asked, "Then what is the specific direction of the Dao rhyme of this rare object?" "I think it should be mainly sharp, and it is very likely an object of the metal element." Zhang Daoying smiled and nodded when he heard this. Brother Su is knowledgeable and well-informed, and he hit the nail on the head. This peerless Dao rhyme is indeed a Jingjin treasure, and it is especially sharp. From this, we can see how terrifying the killing power of the person who held this magic weapon was, which made this magic weapon carry its sharp Dao rhyme. Upon hearing this, Lu Yan congratulated sincerely. "Congratulations, Brother Zhang, for obtaining such a Dao rhyme rare object that suits you so well. With this rare object, I believe you will be able to make further progress in the way of the sword." Zhang Daoying was originally a peerless swordsman with shocking sword intent and terrifying killing power. Now he has obtained the sharp Dao rhyme of Zhengjin. After thoroughly refining it and integrating it into his own swordsmanship, his killing power will definitely exceed everyone's imagination and reach an incredible realm. Compared to Brother Wang, I'm still a little behind. Zhang Daoying stared at Lu Yan, with a clear fighting spirit in his eyes. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 319 Magic Charm. Lu Yan said before that he was best at fire and wind, followed by body training and thunder, and he never revealed that he had attainments in swordsmanship. In Zhang Daoying's understanding, there are two possibilities. One is that swordsmanship does not occupy a large proportion in Lu Yan's cultivation system, and its killing power is not ranked among the means he has mastered. The other is that Lu Yan regards it as a means to the bottom of the box and will not show it to others easily. Just now, Lu Yan used a finger method, body training method and sword method in full view of the public, but none of the fire and wind spells he was best at appeared. Moreover, the unknown finger method that Lu Yan used, although he did not face the terrifying finger force directly, the pain caused by the spiritual consciousness alone made Zhang Daoying feel great pressure. Being in a different position, he could not guarantee that he could persist under such an attack of such intensity. Therefore, there is only one possibility. That the sword technique is not the trump card that Taoist Wang Ten deliberately concealed, but is just a conventional means of attack. Brother Wang, when this trip to the ruins is over, you and I must have a good exchange, Zhang Daoying invited solemnly. Hearing this, Lu Ya smiled slightly, his brows slightly raised, and his fighting spirit surged in his heart. Of course, okay, it's still early. Are you two interested in exploring this relic together? You should know that this relic was the place where humans and demons fought each other in the past. There are countless powerful people, so there are quite a few things with a rhyme of Tao in it, and there may be some things with a rhyme of magic in it, Su Bin suggested with a smile, and then explained, these things with a rhyme of magic are transformed after the death of the demons, just like the rhyme of Tao that humans and monsters feel after death has a certain probability of turning into things with a rhyme of Tao. Although the demons are rejected by this world, most of them turn into ashes after death, but it is possible that some demons have left their own rhyme of Tao by chance. We cultivators generally call it demon rhyme. Demon rhyme and Tao rhyme are both the manifestations of the laws of the Tao, but the biggest difference between the two is that the demon rhyme often contains madness and violence, and regards human life as worthless, while the Tao rhyme is more moderate and peaceful. But compared to Dao rhyme, demon rhyme is even rarer. A great man once did some statistics. In the general ruins of the human-demon battlefield, the ratio of Dao rhyme to demon rhyme is about 1:15. That is, one demon rhyme can be produced for every 15 Dao rhyme objects. This probability is really too low. Lu Ya took over the conversation and sighed. Su Bin nodded and agreed, yes, so the value of demon rhyme is even higher. The cultivators can use the demon rhyme to forge magical instruments with more terrifying lethality, comprehend the negative Dao rhyme contained in it, and even use the demon rhyme to continuously strengthen their own consciousness. If Dao rhyme objects are only considered rare, then demon rhyme objects can be regarded as treasure-level materials. Brother Su means that there are traces of demon rhyme in this ruins, Lu Ya guessed. I say, Brother Wang, if the existence of the peerless Dao rhyme has appeared, isn't it normal for a demon rhyme to appear again? Su Bin said very naturally. Lu Ya thought about it and it seemed to be true. So he stopped worrying about it. Anyway, his purpose was to search for some Dao rhyme so that he could comprehend it and improve his own magic power. Zhang Daoying had no problem either. When he was refining the peerless Dao rhyme just now, Su Bin and Lu Ya had been protecting him. Now that he had obtained a peerless Dao rhyme, it was reasonable to leave the ruins now, which was the safest way. But Zhang Daoying was not the kind of ungrateful person. So he nodded directly to express his agreement. Okay, then I'll set off. With our three great geniuses gathered together, this ruins can be said to be unimpeded, but it can be regarded as easy and casual. Su Bin laughed exaggeratedly. Lu Ya looked at Zhang Daoying again. For an existence of Su Bin's level, there was really no good way. What else can he do? Just follow him. In just 3 days, the three explored most of the ruins and obtained a total of 7 Dao rhyme items. As for the magic rhyme items, they had not encountered any. Although there were many Dao Yun objects, Lu Ya's perception was that none of them could compare to the black silver needle he got at the beginning. However, it was a good thing to have something. According to the contributions of the three people, Lu Ya, as the pioneer of the attack, got 3 items, and Zhang Daoying, who was responsible for output, and Su Bin, who was responsible for defense, each got 2 items. If we explore this direction for another half a day and still haven't encountered the magic rhyme, it means that there is no magic rhyme in this ruins, or we are unlucky. There is no point in forcing the search. We might as well leave early to save time. Su Bin pointed in a direction with a dejected look, and his words were somewhat powerless. God knows why the peerless Dao Yun appeared, but not even a magic rhyme was encountered. Brother Su, there is no need to be like this. This trip to the ruins is also a rare experience. Seeing that Su Bin seemed to be in a bad mood, Zhang Daoying couldn't help but comfort him. Lu Ya walked at the front of the team with an expressionless face, and a khaki-colored fate light shield flashed on his body. After walking and stopping like this for half a day, the three of them accepted the result that they had not found the magic rhyme. Seeing this, Su Bin stopped, sighed, and said, "Forget it, Brother Wang, Brother Zhang, let's go back. There is nothing left in this ruins." After that, he raised his head and waited for the two's reply. However, as he raised his head, he found that the whole sky became extremely dark in an instant, and it was almost pitch black. Both Lu Ya and Zhang Daoying disappeared in an instant. Illusion, Su Bin quickly put on many layers of defense. A series of operations took only a few breaths. After doing all this, he shook his head again. It's not an illusion, but it's caused by my perception being blocked. At this time, it can be reflected how broad the vision and profound the background of the disciples trained by the big forces and big sects are. With just one glance, he can easily realize that it is not the interference of the illusion, but his own perception is blocked. Demon Realm. After falling into the trap, Su Bin was stunned at first, and then he sensed the chaotic and disordered atmosphere around him, and was immediately overjoyed. It's actually the Demon Realm? Ha ha ha, the treasure of magic rhyme is here. As Su Bin laughed, a black light suddenly appeared not far in front of him, and finally turned into a gray-black flying catkin figure with a height of more than 2 meters and horns on his head. At the moment the figure took shape, Su Bin's laughter stopped abruptly, and his eyes were full of disbelief. This is actually Chapter 320, Fighting the Unyielding Demonic Rhythm Soldier. Whoosh! The moment the gray-black flying catkin's figure appeared, it turned into a black light, brought a gust of fishy wind, and rushed straight towards Su Bin. Its speed was so fast and its power was so terrifying that it far exceeded the giant in realm. It's actually a unyielding level magic weapon. Su Bin's face twisted involuntarily. After sensing the specific cultivation level of this magic weapon, he instantly put on layers of protection for himself, and even the defensive magic weapon glowed in an instant, blocking Su Bin in front of him. Although I am a genius who has already formed a Dan in my early 30s, I am only in the early stage of Dan. I have no chance of winning against a unyielding level magic rhyme weapon alone. I am not a peerless swordsman like Brother Jiang. So do you know that Brother Jiang killed the peerless Dao rhyme weapon with a sword, and he is afraid of Brother Wang's strength, so he deliberately picked me as a soft persimmon to squeeze. Su Bin spoke very quickly, staring at the gray-black flying catkin's figure in front of him. In his hand, there was a 1-foot-long alien dagger, flashing a piercing cold light. The alien dagger was held in the back end of the figure, stabbing at Su Bin from top to bottom. At the moment of the attack, the gray-black flying catkins flying in the whole world quickly gathered towards the dagger, and in a blink of an eye, a round of dagger phantoms was formed, stabbing down together with the dagger entity. Stop it! The tip of the huge dagger flashed with a cold light that froze blood, and it stabbed heavily on the khaki protective shield on Su Bin's body as he roared. In an instant, the khaki protective shield on Su Bin's body shone brightly, and at the same time, a round bowl shadow appeared in front of him, with a round bowl body facing the dagger, blocking the thick bowl body in front of the dagger. Ling! After a loud bang, the vitality of heaven and earth and the gray-black flying catkin scattered with a shock wave. Whether it was the bright protective shield or the round bowl shadow, they all disappeared under this stab, but they finally blocked this fatal attack. At the moment the round bowl was broken, Su Bin's face turned pale, and a mouthful of blood spurted out a long distance, and even his body shook. The gap between Jiangdan and Yuanying is so huge. How did Brother Jiang kill the Yuanying level Daoite soldier? Su Bin still had the leisure to think about it at this moment, just because he saw the two geniuses who were traveling with him. From the time Su Bin was attacked to the end of the first attack, it was only 2 breaths. It was these 2 breaths that almost killed a Jiangdan level genius in this relic. Get out of here! Lu Ya held a giant Shao knife, turned into a giant, stepped on a hurricane, and rushed towards the flying catkin's figure like thunder. But Zhang Daoying was faster than him. A dazzling sword light flashed past, and the dagger that attacked Su Bin was knocked aside. The fierce collision caused the dazzling sword light to plummet in speed, so Lu Ya could see clearly what was in the sword light. It was a handleless flying sword. The sword body fluctuated like water, flying in the air like a swimming fish, showing its own flexibility and strength. Fellow Taoist Jiwang's flying sword. Lu Ya looked at Zhang Daoying from the corner of his eye, and saw that he stood there, with amazing divine light bursting out of his eyes. Then, the flying sword, like a swimming fish, made a crisp and extremely clear sword sound, and the terrifying sword intent burst out from the sword body, turning into an unparalleled divine sword and slashing towards the magic charm soldier. This killing power is really terrifying. Lu Ya watched as the flying sword controlled by Zhang Daoying swept away the dagger in the hand of the magic charm soldier, and then pierced through the body of the magic charm soldier without losing its momentum, and shot out from behind him. He couldn't help but sigh. Then he didn't stay idle either. While his footsteps did not stop, he pointed in the air with one hand, and a scarlet finger force followed the flying sword and shot towards its head. The Scarlet Finger Force also contained terrifying killing power. Taking advantage of the unstable body of the magic charm soldier, it pierced through its head again, and blew away most of the gray and black flying catkins that made up its head. The roar echoed endlessly. It was only a sword and a finger, but it was like a heavy hammer hitting down, and the gray and black flying catkins figure retreated several steps. Hiss! The flying catkins figure held the alien dagger and let out a piercing roar. Madness flashed in his dark eyes made of flying catkins. He raised his left hand and pointed at the ground. Suddenly, a black gas quickly spread along his finger to the surroundings. In just a moment, it spread to a range of 1,000 feet. Within 1,000 feet, the black gas rolled, like a ghost cave, as if it wanted to devour all the lives that fell into it. Nascent Soul Realm, Subin screamed. Because he had just taken the attack of the demonic rhyme soldier, he was now in a state of serious injury. A layer of black gas covered his body without resistance. Luya sacrificed the Zuinul spirit shield, feeling the black gas that was constantly corroding and attacking his own defense, as well as the spiritual energy of heaven and earth that was constantly being squeezed out around him, and his heart sank slightly. The figure transformed by the magic rhyme, the magic domain it unleashed, actually actively excluded the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Within the range of the magic domain, there were only more and more polluted gray and black flying catkins. For cultivators fighting in such a magic domain, without the timely replenishment of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, every time their own mana is consumed, they will lose 1 point. When their own mana is exhausted, they can only wait for death. Luya's consciousness moved, and the purple gold pill located in the danshan of the Kisi rumbled, and the huge mana flowed from the danshan to his limbs and bones, filling his body. The next moment, the sound of sobbing wind sounded, and the white wind blew through this 1,000-foot magic domain. Subin only felt a slight cold wind blowing in his face, and that feeling was like a mountain breeze blowing past him when he was sitting alone on the cliff watching the sunset in the evening of late autumn. But it was this mountain breeze with the warmth of the setting sun that easily blew away all the black air wrapped around his body, and quickly formed a translucent white cloak on his body. After Subin's safety was saved, Luya felt relieved. He opened his mouth and spit out a little, and a golden red beam fire appeared from his mouth. As soon as the golden red beam fire appeared, it burned and evaporated all the gray and black flying catkins around it with an overbearing heat. A wisp of white wind swept the beam fire, and the beam fire naturally fell on the white wind. It exploded suddenly. It exploded into a golden red sea of fire. This fire was so overbearing and violent. The gray and black flying catkins that intended to get close to extinguish the flames were like moths flying into the fire, and were ignited, evaporated and burned in an instant. Even the blazing golden red sea of fire began to spread outward with the flying catkins, and even extended towards the magic rhyme soldiers. Perhaps it felt that the sea of fire was spreading too slowly, so the sobbing white wind accelerated in vain, driving the sea of fire to sweep in all directions, sweeping up the gray and black flying catkins in the sky, and carrying the overbearing and violent golden and red true fire towards the location of the magic rhyme soldiers. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 321, Magical Rhythm. The terrifying flame swept like a wave, and a huge fire domain of nearly 500 feet was forcibly opened up in this 1,000-foot demon domain. Wherever the flame swept, the gray and black flying catkins were completely burned to ashes, and the fire attribute vitality filled this fire domain. Zhang Daoying only felt his whole body lighten, and the heavy pressure he had just suffered in the demon domain dissipated. With amazement in his eyes, he looked at Luya, who stood shoulder to shoulder with him. Luya had said before that he was best at fire and wind Taoist magic, and now seeing it, it was really shocking. The combination of flames and frost wind can actually form such a magnificent flame domain, and can also force back the demon domain spread by the unyielding demon rhyme soldier, just like a unyielding domain. Thinking of this, Zhang Daoying's eyes became more solemn. Compared with the shock of Zhang Daoying and Subin, Luya's heart was a little solemn at this moment. Although he had killed a Daoyun soldier suspected to be at the unyielding level before, he fell into the darkness first. At the moment when the opponent launched an attack, he used all his means to trap it in front of him, making it impossible for it to display its cultivation. Finally, he successfully killed it. The evil rhyme he faced at this time was several levels more dangerous than before. There was no dialogue or communication. Luya just glanced at Zhang Daoying, and the other party immediately understood his thoughts. The next moment, Zhang Daoying's sword intent burst out, and the sword energy soared into the sky. A sky-high longsword appeared from Zhang Daoying's head. Along with it, there were also the continuous mountains and rivers covering the sky above the sword edge. One after another, the mountains in the shape of sword energy were like ink splashing, wantonly swaying. At this moment, Zhang Daoying's breath had exceeded the limit that the golden elixir could burst out. Although blood was flowing from the corners of his mouth, it still could not cover up the terrifying power of his sword. Even the magic soldier felt the threat from Zhang Daoying, and roared again. The huge magic domain suddenly began to shrink with him as the center, and in an instant it was completely attached to his body. After doing all this, it roared, turned into a black stream of light, and rushed into the fire domain condensed by Lu Yang. As soon as the magic shadow came into contact with the flame, a series of sizzling sounds immediately broke out, and waves of black air quickly dissipated from the body of the magic shadow. Its momentum was like a broken bamboo, and in just a breath of time, it had rushed to within 100 feet in front of Lu Yat and the others. Lu Yat held up the giant Shao knife upside down, and suddenly slashed it horizontally. The golden red flames that were still burning wantonly the last moment, as if they had met their destination, all flew towards the knife in Lu Yat's hand. The speed of the flames was faster than that of the magic shadow. In an instant, all the flames in the sky were gathered into the knife in front of Lu Yat. The dark red flames that were so solid that they almost flowed like liquid flowed on the broad blade, which had a kind of beauty like flowing clouds and water, but hidden under this beauty was a deadly killing force. Lu Yat held the long sword in his hand and suddenly turned it over. The next moment, the giant Shao sword began to rise inch by inch. The giant Shao sword, which was originally very handy, now seemed to be a huge weight, climbing towards Lu Yat at an extremely slow but firm speed. Bang bang bang. A series of sonic booms came from the front of Lu Yat, and the air walls he had laid were all smashed by the demon shadow. However, Lu Yat's goal had been achieved. When the demon shadow smashed all the air walls and came in front of Lu Yat, the giant Shao sword in his hand had already climbed to the highest point. Facing the sudden attack of the demon shadow, Lu Yat just held the sword with both hands and slashed it fiercely from top to bottom. The sword passed through the void, but the sword energy roared like a dragon, and the golden red flames erupted like a volcano, forming a torrent of fire pillars, rolling out. The flames were surging, sweeping across the heaven and earth. This knife combined Lu Yat's peak-splitting knife technique, Sun True Fire, and Guangmo Wind, integrating his own spiritual consciousness and magic power, and finally formed this peak knife. In terms of killing alone, this knife is much better than the life-extinguishing finger. One knife split the demon realm, one knife split the heaven and earth, and one knife split in front of the demon shadow. Facing Lu Yat's huge flame knife, the demon shadow let out a sharp whistle, and the alien dagger in his hand shone brightly. He gently flicked it in front of him, and a translucent energy rushed towards Lu Yat's flame knife. Even with such an inconspicuous dagger energy, there was neither dazzling brilliance nor strong fluctuations, but it barely blocked Lu Yat's peak knife that split the heaven and earth. The knife's momentum was blocked, and Lu Yat's heart was not shaken at all. He had already done everything he was supposed to do. The next moment, above the sky, at the top of the sword peak, the rolling green mountains suddenly seemed to turn upside down, and the mountains hung upside down and fell heavily towards the location of the demon shadow. The sword energy surged, one after another, and the sword tip was like a mountain, carrying the weight of the entire sky to cover the body of the demon shadow, forcing it to bear this sword. The sword light was so brilliant, and the sword tip was so heavy. Lu Yat's previous sword was already amazing enough, but Zhang Daoying's sword was no less impressive. When the first sword energy green mountain fell on the body of the demon shadow, the body of the demon shadow shook violently, as if it was cut into pieces by the sword energy, and a large amount of gray and black flying catkins were cut off from the body of the demon shadow in strips. Although the demon shadow was full of demon energy and tried to break free from the pressure of the sword energy green mountain, everything was doomed the moment he was stopped by Lu Yat. Boom boom boom. The continuous sword energy and green mountains kept hitting the demon shadow, stirring up a lot of smoke and spiritual energy. When the smoke and dust dissipated, everything returned to calm. There was no demon rime anymore. In the deep pit formed by the sword energy, there was only a strange dagger lying quietly in it. Lu Yat and Zhang Daoying breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Yat held the jade box and jumped into the deep pit, putting the strange dagger representing the demon rime into it. Until this time, seeing Lu Yat and the other two appearing safely from the 1,000-foot demon domain, And seeing Lu Ya jump into the deep pit to collect the spoils, the monks who were surrounding in the distance immediately fled in all directions, fearing that Lu Ya and the other two would chase and kill them. When Lu Ya jumped out of the deep pit, the monks in the distance had disappeared. Lu Ya raised the jade box in his hand without any care, and threw it to Su Bin, who quickly caught it. "The nascent soul magic charm is in it, Brother Su, keep it." Su Bin chuckled and said, "You just threw it to me like this. Aren't you afraid that I will run away with the treasure and disappear from the sky? It's just a nascent soul magic charm. If Brother Su really likes it, just take it." Lu Ya didn't care about his words, and said it naturally. Looking at Lu Ya's natural expression, Su Bin suspected that he didn't know the value of this nascent soul magic charm, but when the words came to his lips, he changed them to, "Then I will keep it first, and when we get out of the ruins, I will sell it. At that time, I will definitely get a good price. Maybe it will be the resource for us to cultivate to the nascent soul." Chapter 322, Leaving the Ruins. Su Bin's words made Lu Ya look sideways. What he thought in his heart was that he might have greatly underestimated the value of this nascent soul demon rhyme. However, he did not say anything else. It was just a few resources. Lu Ya said that he was not short of resources at all. Su Bin put the jade box into the storage ring, then took out the healing pill and swallowed it, and then began to close his eyes to refine the medicine. It can be seen that although he looks alive and kicking, the damage he suffered is definitely not light. Zhang Daoying's face was pale, but his body stood straight like a sword. He looked at Lu Ya and said, "Brother Wang, you should also heal your wounds. I will protect you too." Seeing this, Lu Ya did not refuse. He took out a pill and swallowed it into his mouth, then sat cross-legged and began to heal his wounds. When he just fought with a demon shadow, his consumption was indeed not small. At this moment, the mana in his body has been reduced by 70% and he was also injured by the recoil force. Although it was not serious, it needed to be treated in time, otherwise it would have a greater impact on the body. After half an hour, Lu Ya finished healing his wounds and took turns with Zhang Daoying, who started healing. 2 hours later, the three of them had recovered. Su Bin took a bite of the green fruit in his hand, and the juice was overflowing. He said, "We have explored most of the ruins in the past few days. Whether it is the Dao rhyme or the magic rhyme, we have gained a lot. This trip to the ruins is considered a success. Let's go back now." Lu Ya nodded after hearing this. He gained a lot from this trip to the ruins, but because there was no good environment in the ruins to digest it carefully, he could only remember these insights in his heart. Now that Su Bin had proposed it, he was not willing to stay in the ruins for a long time. He wanted to find a quiet place to experience what he had gained this time. Seeing that both of them agreed, Zhang Daoying naturally had no objection. After all, he still had a peerless Dao rhyme waiting for him to comprehend. Seeing that both of them agreed, Su Bin immediately stood up from the ground, counted with his fingers, pointed to a direction and said, "In this direction, it will take only half a day to reach the exit of the ruins." "That's the best," Lu Ya said. After confirming the itinerary, the three of them did not stay any longer, and immediately boarded Su Bin's flying boat magic weapon, rushing all the way towards the exit of the ruins close to the ground. Fortunately, they had explored the ruins roughly before, so they did not run into any powerful existence under this speed, and arrived at the exit safely. There was still a certain distance from the exit. Lu Ya glanced at the huge space vortex with one eye, and frowned slightly. He could feel that there were many eyes around them carefully observing the three of them. In particular, after seeing the three of them arrive, a foundation-building cultivator actually stepped directly into the space vortex behind him and disappeared. How could such a thing be so coincidental? The three of them couldn't help but have a bad premonition. "I feel a little bad. I'm afraid that bastard just now went out to leak the news." As soon as we stepped out of the space vortex, we were directly suppressed by the nascent soul great monk guarding the exit. Not only will all our gains be taken away, but even our lives will be in danger. Su Bin looked at the foundation-building monk who disappeared in the space vortex, and his face twitched. This problem is indeed possible. The time when the foundation-building monk entered was too coincidental. He even deliberately looked at me a few more times just now, Lu Ya recalled. "Then how should we deal with it now?" Zhang Daoying asked. He never had any good ideas for dealing with these trivial matters. How to deal with it? Break out of the space vortex and crush the demon king on the opposite side trashes, Su Bin said with a matter-of-fact expression. "Then how about Brother Su? You come and show us a demonstration, Liu Ya said with a smile on his face, looking at Su Bin. Su Bin quickly coughed twice and said, ahem, just kidding. Since they dare to do this, it basically means that there is an ambush outside the exit. I don't know how strong a person in the ambush is, but I think there is a high probability that there is a nascent soul cultivator. After all, the upper limit of the combat power in these ruins is the golden core perfection. And the people in these ruins, to be honest, none of them can fight. He said this as a matter of course and didn't feel that there was anything wrong. Su Bin added, and judging from the other party's clothing, although they deliberately disguised themselves, their temperament is more like those merchants from the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce. Considering our previous killings and the blade-wield Aoyan exposed in public, it must be that the forces in Wangchang are jealous. As far as I know, the president of the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce is a great monk who is expected to become a god, but he is most famous not for his cultivation, but for his endless and dazzling magic weapons. According to incomplete statistics, the number of magic weapons used by the president of the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce alone exceeds 50, which is really terrifying. Since the other party is already waiting for us outside, let them wait. As long as we don't go out, even if the president of the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce comes in person, he can't do anything to us, Liu Ya spoke calmly. The two geniuses with deep backgrounds around him didn't worry at all, so what should he, a lonely man, worry about? At worst, the moment they left the ruins, they could use the Kyankan Only talisman and move thousands of miles away in an instant. As for the two Xianjiao, Liu Ya didn't believe that even he would prepare some life-saving items for himself, and the forces behind the other party would not prepare anything. The three of them finished their discussion and turned to leave. Seeing the three of them leave, a giant cultivator appeared from a hidden place, just looking at the direction the three of them left, and finally said a few words to the others, and then one of them stood up and went into the space vortex. Little did they know that at this moment in the sky, Liu Ya and the other two were riding on Su Bin's magic flying boat, and outside the flying boat were layers of clouds and mist, which completely covered the flying boat. Look, there are still people waiting, Su Bin said with great pride, and then asked, what should we do now? How about wiping them out at once? No, Brother Su, this will alert the enemy and will be detrimental to our subsequent actions, Zhang Daoying advised. Why don't we observe the situation of the enemy first? And when the time is right, we will catch them all in one fell swoop, Liu Ya smiled and added, then rush out of the ruins at lightning speed and get rid of the blockade. Yes, that's it, Su Bin laughed and showed a look of longing. Let's get rid of these gatekeepers first, otherwise as soon as we leave the ruins, we will inevitably be ambushed in advance, Liu Ya sighed. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 323 Both Ends of the Whirlpool. At this moment, outside the space vortex, several waves of people were waiting in full battle array. The monks gathered, their magic power was surging, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth that was stirred up even forced the gray fog around the space vortex to open, revealing a large piece of empty land. When the foundation building monk appeared from the space vortex, a fat monk wearing a golden jade robe drew his hand, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered rapidly, and was about to take him away. The foundation building monk had not even reacted before he was already surrounded by the huge spiritual energy of heaven and earth. There was despair and unwillingness in his eyes. However, when he saw the person who made the move, he quickly regained his composure. Humph, President Liu is so impatient, I'm afraid it's not good for the path. If it goes on like this, there's no hope for him to become a god. Just as the fat monk was capturing the foundation building monk from the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce, a sharp mocking voice came from the mouth of a skinny old man in front of another group of people. The sound waves were stirring, with a strange wave, easily breaking the trick used by the President Liu he mentioned. Then the sound waves continued to grow, turning into invisible ropes to tie up the foundation building monk and dragging him in the direction where he was. The fat monk called President Liu was immediately provoked to anger when he heard this, and then he shouted without hesitation, if this president does not take action in time, I am afraid that all the monks of my Three Domains Chamber of Commerce will be taken away by you. This can't happen again, and Alliance leaders who must be aware of this. This fat monk surnamed Liu is the president of the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce. His full name is Liu Yankun, and he is also known as a great nascent soul monk with a hope of becoming a god. The skinny old man who took action is the leader of the Immovable Alliance, one of the three major forces in Wangcheng. Although he is already a skinny old man and has basically no hope of becoming a god, His cultivation is a little higher than Liu Yang. Before this, a monk from the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce was taken away by the Immovable Alliance the moment he just left the space vortex, causing the other party to know the latest developments in the ruins at the first time. Liu Yang was not one to suffer losses, so he was on guard. When he was practicing, he placed a small part of his consciousness in the space vortex so that when someone came out, he could capture them at the first time. This arrangement was originally set up by the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce. If it hadn't been for the previous moment of carelessness, there wouldn't be so many forces gathered here, not only Wang Cheng, but even the slightly closer sect forces in the Three Domains, all gathered here at this moment. They all came for the peerless Daorime represented by the blade wheel in the ruins. In the eyes of several nascent soul cultivators, it was no longer just a peerless Daorime, but also contained the path to the transformation of the spirit. If you get this peerless Daorime, you can get a glimpse of the leopard, and take advantage of the Daorime of the predecessors to take the path of transformation. When he thought of this, Liu Yang couldn't help but hate it in his heart. He hated his subordinates for being careless and not vigilant, and he hated himself for not being prepared, which led to his subordinates being captured and the news leaked. At the moment when the leader of the Immovable Alliance, Zhu, made his move, 3 more people beside the space vortex used their own methods to grasp the poor foundation-building monk in their hands. 5 terrifying forces were all applied to the poor foundation-building monk's body, and they kept fighting and pulling each other. Let go. Seeing that the foundation-building monk was about to give up, President Liu Yang shouted loudly, and a square golden ring flew out from his stubby fingers. The next moment, it appeared above the head of the foundation-building monk, shaking off a stream of green light, protecting him while isolating the other 4 nascent soul monks from the means. After a successful surprise attack, Liu Yang waved his hand, and the ring and the person flew into his hands without any hindrance. Seeing this, the rest of the forces on his side could only give up in disappointment. After all, they were originally members of the other forces. If they robbed them by force, they could still cheat, but since they didn't succeed at this moment, they could only pretend that nothing had happened. After Liu Yang took the elite camera from the general, he set up a band to isolate the unyielding cultivators from other forces from spying, and then asked carefully. After a while, after listening to what the foundation-building disciple said, a cloud of worry rose in his heart, but his expression did not change at all, which made the other unyielding cultivators unpredictable. After a long time, Zhu, the leader who had just taken action, couldn't help but send a message to Liu Yang to ask about the news in the ruins. After paying a certain price, Zhu, the leader who got the news, had a flash of surprise and annoyance in his eyes, but it disappeared in an instant. He just nodded slightly with an understanding expression. Seeing this, the other 3 Yuanyings turned their minds and began to send messages to Liu Yang one by one to ask questions. At the exit of the ruins, Liu Yang and others, who had been observing for a while and were ready to take action, were still hiding in the clouds. Because just now, another large group of people flew in from a distance, and they didn't meet the first group of people, and landed directly on an open space. Then the light of the formation flags pierced the sky, a large formation was set up, and the crowd gradually disappeared from sight. This is troublesome. Another group of people has come, and it seems that they are most likely preparing to ambush the monks who are leaving the ruins, and their biggest target is probably the 3 of us. Su Bin watched a large group of people flying over, passing by the hiding place of the people from the Three Domains Chamber of Commerce, and then landing on the ground to set up a large invisible formation. He felt like ants were crawling all over his body, which made him clench his teeth. Su Bin turned his head and looked at Liu Yang and asked, "Brother Wang, Brother Zhang, why are you silent? What do you think?" Liu Yang glanced at the place where those people were hiding just now, and then slowly said, "I wonder if there are people from other forces hiding around besides the 2 groups of people we saw, but we haven't discovered them yet." After these words came out, the other 2 were silent for a while. "Perhaps, our whereabouts are also exposed to the side of the hidden people," Zhang Daoying added. The 3 were silent again. Afterwards, Su Bin scratched his head and said with a broken jar attitude, "This matter is very complicated. Brother Wang, Brother Zhang, just charge. As long as our speed is fast enough, the monks on both sides of the exit can't react, and we have a chance to escape. At worst, we can use some life-saving methods. I believe your family elders have prepared these methods." Liu Yang and Zhang Daoying looked at each other and didn't say anything, but the meaning was already very clear. Seeing this, Su Bin grinned and said, "Brother Wang, Brother Zhang, get ready, we will rush straight over." As soon as the voice fell, before Lu Yat and the others responded, he burst out with magic power, and the flying boat under his feet turned into an arrow from the string, flying towards the slowly rotating space vortex not far below. Chapter 324, Thunder in the Sky, Golden Pills Raining Down. Lu Yat and the other two were not far from the space vortex. At this moment, Su Bin used all his strength to drive the flying boat magic weapon under his feet. The speed was much faster than Lu Yat's rainbow transformation technique. Almost in the blink of an eye, the flying boat had rushed into the space vortex within 100 feet. It only took a breath for the flying boat to rush directly into the vortex and forcefully break out of the ambush. However, at the moment when Su Bin urged the flying boat to burst out with all his strength, the several waves of people ambushing near the space vortex all noticed it and responded at a very fast speed. Time was tight and they could not arrange it calmly. Therefore, after activating the interception means prepared in advance, more monks blocked the route that the flying boat must pass with their bodies. One by one, the mana burst out. In a short time, the distance of 100 feet was occupied by hundreds of monks. These hundreds of figures were divided into 4 forces, separated by a distance from each other. When they appeared at this time, they were quite surprised by each other, and then returned to normal, all looking at the flying boat that was rushing. These hundreds of figures seemed to form a human wall to stop Lu Yat and his 2 companions before the exit. In front of the hundreds of figures, a huge net and air wall composed of spiritual energy rushed towards the flying boat and surrounded Lu Yat and his companions. Facing so many monks and the means of blocking they had prepared, Lu Yat and his companions knew that they could not be stopped, even if their speed could not be slowed down or their direction could not be deflected. Therefore, Lu Yat took a step forward and walked to the front of the flying boat, and his whole body of magic power moved violently. His body expanded to the limit in an instant, and a violent and hot fire burned on his giant body. Then he jumped up, and in the whistling wind, a sea of fire rolled up behind Lu Yat, like a meteorite from outer space falling to the earth, carrying a flame that destroyed the world, and suddenly killed the hundreds of people in front. Wherever they passed, the giant net was burned through, the air wall was melted, and the Taoist light that flew in was also melted in the flames. All the way was unstoppable, destroying everything in its path. Boom boom boom. The roar echoed, and the spiritual energy overflowed. With Lu Yat's impact, more and more cultivators were drawn into the sea of fire and their lives were devoured. However, in this consumption, Lu Yat's speed inevitably slowed down. Until 60 feet later, Lu Yat's speed had almost stagnated. In front of him was a huge golden drum with a huge drum head. After Lu Yat hit the golden drum, he was unable to make any breakthroughs and finally stopped. Kill them, seize the peerless Dao Rhyme, and achieve the body of incarnation. More than 100 giant and foundation-building cultivators from the 3 domains had red eyes, and their eyes were fixed on Lu Yat and the flying boat behind him. The greed in their eyes almost condensed into substance, and they roared like crazy. In the blink of an eye, these cultivators approached one after another. Many of them went straight to the flying boat, and many of them went straight to Lu Yat. The fastest among them was a middle-aged giant. He was like a phantom. The moment Lu Yat stopped, he instantly appeared in front of Lu Yat. With the cold light in his eyes, he pinched his hands in front of him, and a wisp of black smoke appeared in his hands, pressing towards Lu Yat's head. Behind him, there were 4 giant, who were only a little slower, rushing quickly. There were magic weapons connecting them to each other. As long as they could stop Lu Yat a little, these 4 people would instantly surround Lu Yat in the center, forming a deadly situation. And in the distance, there were dozens of giant, all at full speed, holding magic weapons, and killing Lu Yat from all directions. Get out! At the critical moment, Lu Yat's copper bell-like eye surged with blue lightning, with a hint of madness. Facing the oncoming middle-aged giant monk, Lu Yat did not dodge, but rushed out suddenly, as if he was going to die, and collided with him directly. With a bang, the lightning and flames exploded. Lu Yat's 2 huge spiritual arms firmly grasped the other's body protection shield, and pushed his body hard, crashing into the 4 giant who were coming from behind. Such an abrupt scene did not make the 4 giant behind hesitate at all. Their eyes flashed with murderous intent, and they directly activated the magic weapon aura between each other. Suddenly, 4 colored dragons flew out of the magic weapon aura, roaring and biting Lu Yat. Die! Lu Yat roared, and the blue lightning in his eyes could no longer be controlled. In an instant, A thunderous killing intent that destroyed the world and made many cultivators fearful burst out from Liu Ya's body. 9 Heavens divine thunder. I saw a huge, chaotic and dense arc of electricity with him as the center, spreading in all directions, and the blazing white electric light filled the field of vision, as if to burn the eyes blind. The middle-aged golden elixir held in Liu Ya's hand could not even self-destruct in the midst of thunder and lightning, and was directly carbonite. The golden elixir cultivator, who followed closely behind him, felt his eyes go white and his body go numb amid the roar of thunder, and then he lost all senses. In the blink of an eye, the 20-foot range around Liu Ya turned directly into a sea of thunder. All the cultivators who broke into this range, along with the golden elixir in their bodies, turned into charcoal and fell from the sky. From a distance, it looked like rain, falling on the ground under the thunder clouds. In a farther place, the cultivator who was rushing forward saw the golden elixir falling like rain, and suddenly felt cold all over his body. Even the pursuit of the great way of transformation in his mind had dissipated at this moment, and only the desire to survive remained in his mind. Liu Ya stood in the void, his eyes filled with blue lightning that had not yet completely dissipated. Below him were the charred corpses of giant and cultivators falling like rain, and behind him was a sea of golden red fire that spread across the sky. Wherever his eyes fell, whether they were foundation-building cultivators or giant and cultivators, they all turned their heads away, not daring to look at him. The person who controlled the golden drum also died in this sudden lightning. Without the control of the treasure holder, it instantly turned into the size of a palm, was taken into Liu Ya's hand, and thrown into the stored ring. There seemed to be a whimpering sound in the void, blowing Liu Ya's long hair. His eyes were still cold, his lips slightly opened, and his tone was like ice. Whoever stands in my way will be killed. This scene, not to mention the foundation-building cultivators, even the giant and cultivators, even the giant and cultivators in the late giant and stage or even the giant and perfection cultivators, were all shocked by Liu Ya at this moment, and subconsciously made way for Liu Ya, leaving no obstacles between Liu Ya and the space vortex. Behind Liu Ya, a sword light suddenly lit up, carrying a monstrous killing force, sweeping away the giant and monks who were rushing towards the flying boat. In just a breath, broken limbs and arms flew, and most of the besieged giant and monks were killed or injured, and only 2 people escaped with luck. Get out of my way! Liu Ya's eyes showed a strong killing intent, and he stomped heavily in the void, and the whole person rushed towards the space vortex again, and the flying boat followed closely behind. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 325 The corpse appearing in the whirlpool. Seeing Liu Ya rushing towards the space vortex like a killing god, the monks who were blocking the space vortex did not hesitate at all and retreated to both sides. Even though they knew that the other party had the peerless Tarim, the choice of life and death was in front of them, and there was not much room for choice. There were even many clever monks who turned around and rushed towards the space vortex behind them, flying out of the ruins before Liu Ya and others. Seeing this, Liu Ya's eyes flashed with murderous intent. If these people escaped from the ruins first, the various forces guarding the outside world would definitely be prepared. At that time, it would not be so easy to escape from the hands of the prepared unyielding monks. With this thought, Liu Ya tapped his hands continuously, and a series of life-destroying finger forces broke through the void and appeared behind those people's heads silently. As Liu Ya's most lethal magical spell, the finger of life-destroying is not something that these giant and foundation-building monks can resist, and these people have left their backs to Liu Ya. For a moment, the sound of puff-puff of flesh and blood being pierced was endless. The monks who ran a little slower found that the monks in front of them had blood holes on their heads. Their panicked hearts fell to the bottom of the valley at this moment. They stopped their steps abruptly, protected their heads, and fled to both sides. Almost, that person escaped into the space vortex. Su Bin was in front of the flying boat and saw a monk sinking into the space vortex. He couldn't help shouting. Liu Ya didn't stop for even a breath, and continued to rush towards the space vortex, as if the man's escape just now had no effect on him. The distance of dozens of feet was almost a flash for everyone present. When Liu Ya rushed to the space vortex, he didn't stop at all, and just crashed into the vortex. Behind him, Zhang Daoying was wrapped in the dragon sword light, and Su Bin's body was glowing with a yellowish-brown luster, and they all sank into the vortex. At this time, the space vortex that was originally rotating slowly suddenly accelerated. This abnormality naturally attracted the attention of several forces surrounding this place. Another person has come out. I don't know what news he can bring this time. I hope we are not from the Mobilization Alliance. Cheer up. I'm afraid the old man, the president, will have to stretch his muscles again. With the lessons learned from the past, the abnormal movement of the space vortex at this moment has attracted the attention of all the monks waiting here. They all want to see which force can grab the person who came out this time. The space vortex rotated faster and faster. Suddenly, in an instant, a black shadow was spit out from the center of the vortex with a space fluctuation strong enough to block the detection of spiritual consciousness. Before the monks who were planning to watch the excitement next to them could see clearly, the leaders of several forces who were ready had already used various means to start fighting. A strong and oppressive aura instantly enveloped the black shadow. Alliance Master Zhu, do you really want to be my enemy? Disperse, this is my disciple from the Blue Whale sect. The magnificent voice resounded throughout the area, followed by a strong fluctuation of spiritual energy, accompanied by a deafening roar, which made all the disciples feel cold in their hearts. You clown, why should you be afraid? The rumbling sound of mana suddenly stopped in the next moment. In the puzzled eyes of many disciples, the spiritual light of mana in the sky suddenly disappeared, as if it had never appeared. And where the spiritual light disappeared, a black shadow slowly appeared in the eyes of everyone. He was seen lying on the ground with his face facing the earth and his back facing the sky, motionless, without any fluctuation of mana around him, and even his body temperature was gradually dissipating. After sensing the scene, many giant and cultivators instantly flashed with disbelief in their eyes. Dead? Actually dead. There is a fatal bloody hole at the back of his head. The attacker was very cruel. He directly destroyed his soul and made him die completely without any pain. This is not the point. The point is that he was actually teleported out. You must know that this space teleportation can only return to the original position after entering it alive. If it is a dead object, it will only be swallowed by the turbulence of space. In other words, this person clearly entered the space vortex alive, but was killed in the space vortex. What kind of method is this? Could it be that the suspected nascent soul in the ruins did it? Amidst various opinions, the atmosphere on the scene suddenly dropped to freezing point. Even the few nascent soul true men who were originally furious fell into silence. The fat Liu Yankun's eyes were full of caution, and then he suddenly sent a message to the skinny old man of the Immovable Alliance. Old Ghost Zhu, can you kill someone in the space vortex? Upon hearing this, the skinny leader Zhu of the Immovable Alliance, who seemed to be as thin as a little old man, was stunned at first, then thought about it silently in his heart, and finally shook his head imperceptibly. This method is not something that ordinary people can do, even a great cultivator in the late nascent soul stage like you, Alliance Leader Zhu, can't do it. If you can't do it, you can't do it. I guess that only the legendary cultivators who have come into contact with a great way of space laws can do this. After the two of them finished communicating, their eyes gradually became cautious. Suddenly, the noisy venue is quiet again, and everyone cast their eyes on the space vortex that began to rotate again. Someone is coming out again. Will it be a corpse? Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, a figure with a strong murderous aura stepped out from the center of the vortex, followed closely by two handsome cultivators. The moment the three people appeared, a ray of green light shot out from the sleeve of one of them, and in an instant it turned into a jade flying boat, carrying the three people up into the sky. All the movements were smooth and seamless, without any sense of sluggishness. Until the flying boat rushed out dozens of feet away, a terrifying pressure suddenly appeared above everyone's head, and quickly turned into a huge face composed of gray and black mist. The face was so huge that it almost covered the entire sky. The next moment the face condensed, its eyes suddenly opened, and two rays of divine light shot out from its eyes, directly locking onto the jade flying boat that was like an arrow from a string. At the same time, its huge mouth opened and closed, and repeated Taoist sounds came out of its mouth, and finally turned into a golden ding word. The moment the Taoist sound appeared, the golden light had already swept over the jade flying boat, covering the three people standing on the flying boat with a layer of fine golden light, like shackles. There was no expression on the huge face. It opened its huge mouth and swallowed the flying boat in the air. Judging from the situation, once they were swallowed by it, Liu Yat and the other two would have no way to escape. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.